What is up, everyone? Welcome to the live stream, episode 2. Rob Rundle, along with me, Noah Gayhart. We're very excited. It's been a very, very emotional week for baseball fans. Usually when you say emotional, it means good, happiness. No, this is sad, aggravated, just completely just flustered. And Noah, we definitely have a lot to talk about, don't we, big boy?
Oh, for sure.
Oh my goodness. But before we get into all that, we are going to talk about some new signings across Major League Baseball. We're just going to jump right in. Carlos Gonzalez. And a lot of you people hear that name, you think maybe a future Hall of Famer and whatnot. He's definitely fallen off quite a bit, but still a big name. And he signed to a minor league deal with the Seattle Mariners for $750,000 if he makes the big league club. I kind of like this signing, though.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, obviously it's low risk, high reward if you can figure it out. I don't know. I mean, I know when I think of Carlos Gonzalez, I think big swing,
Yeah.
except and then a good pimping of the home runs. So I don't know. I hope he catches on because it'll be good to see something good, hopefully for the Mariners because they really don't have a whole lot going for him right now. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I like it. So
It's
not a bad move.
It'll be interesting to see how he plays out too in T-Mobile Park because before he was at Coors Field, and we all know 81 home games at Coors Field, you're definitely going to have a pretty high offensive WAR
Oh yeah.
there. And but Seattle is just interesting because it's usually a pitcher friendly ballpark, but maybe the good thing with that, with going to an American League team, which makes sense, is you can slide him in as a DH. If
Right.
if you've won 2 out of the 3 games of the series, you can just slide him in there, give guys a little breather and whatnot. Because Daniel Vogelbach, he's really not that great in shape, and he'll
Hmm.
probably play some first base and whatnot too. So gotta love that signing. Another signing across Major League Baseball that happened this past week. Jason Kipnis, we talked about him last week. Signs with the Cubs on a minor league deal for $1 million. Will definitely probably make the big league team. What do you think about that?
I don't. I mean, I don't know. It's been a weird offseason for the NL Central. I mean, they haven't. Nobody's really done all that much outside of the Reds. For the Cubs, this is like the first or second signing they've even made this offseason.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like more of a depth move. I don't really. I wouldn't expect big things out of Kipnis. I think we kind of went over that last week. That I mean, I know at least I'm not too high on the guy, but I mean, it can't hurt to have him. But I don't know. I wonder how much it's going to affect Nico Horner's playing time, the prospect they brought up kind of at the end of last year, and he sounded like a guy that's going to make the roster opening day, and I would wonder if that's going to take away from his playing time.
I think it will just a little bit, but I think you're right with what you said right there. I think it's really good to bring Jason Kipnis in. He's a very loose, charismatic player. He's a veteran. He's going to be a guy who hits 230, and especially Wrigley Field now. That's definitely a
Mhm.
pitcher friendly ballpark. His defense has never really been there either. So, but I think he'll play like every third game or something for the Cubs. That's how
Yeah.
I kind of see it, kind of like what you just mentioned too. Another one, I think this is a great signing, even though it's really the only probably big signing, if you even consider that, for the Detroit Tigers, and that's Cameron Maybin. We talked about him last week and how good of a season he had in about 90 or so ball games. I really like this signing. It's for a year deal. If he plays well, he's in his early 30s. You could still sign him to maybe a 2 3 year deal depending upon how he does.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like this. Obviously, it's a bit of kind of a returning to home for Cameron Maybin. He spent some time with the Tigers before. I think for the Tigers, it's just kind of a more of a name recognition thing. And hey, let's try and get some people to the ballpark. And I mean, like you said, he's in his 30s, so this is a guy that has been there before. I think he's going to be a good influence on their clubhouse because they're not in a position where they're trying to win. So they're kind of getting younger guys kind of into the culture. So I think for that reason, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure. And Maben just really re-solidifying his career just a little bit. We know he was really good as a young player, and especially with the Yankees, they really needed him to perform, and he came up. He came up huge for them. And those are pretty much the real big signings. But there's still one guy that we talked about last week, and that is Yasiel Puig. Yasiel Puig spent time with the Reds last year, and we know he hit over 260 once he got traded to the Indians. Where do you think he's going to end up, or what is the free agency market looking like for Puig?
It doesn't look good, which hurts me to say. I'm a huge Puig fan. But it's just kind of like everywhere that you think that there might be a chance of him going, it gets filled up.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, I mean, Puig was with the Indians last year, and earlier this week they went out and signed another outfielder themselves. They went out and got Domingo Santana on a 1 year deal for 1.5 million. So like obviously he could have returned there, but even that slot's filled, and so it's kind of like there's just not really a spot for him right now. I feel like it's gonna have to be a thing where someone gets injured and then he can come in and kind of fill that spot. But otherwise, I don't know. It looks pretty bleak for him right now. How do you feel about it?
I'm pretty much the same way, and it's crazy. The only team I could really see him signing with is the Miami Marlins, and I know him and Don Mattingly are not getting along, like you said when we were,
Mm,
just talking. But it just makes perfect sense, especially drawing the interest down there in South Beach for people to come to the ballpark. Big name guy.
right,
Their biggest name right now is Corey Dickerson and Brian
right.
Henderson, so they could use a big guy. Actually, Jonathan VR, that's probably bigger actually, but he could definitely start for someone and they could use him probably a mediocre. And we'll talk about this later or here in just a little bit with the new playoff system. If it was like the new
Mhm.
proposed system, he could fit easily with a lot of teams that could just get the job done. I could also see him with the Royals. Actually, I think the Royals would be a good fit for him, even if they can just kind of dump him maybe
Mhm.
July and get
Yeah,
some prospects out of him.
the Royals, honestly, I never really thought about it, but that would be a good fit. That'd
Hmm.
be a pretty good outfield if Whit Merrifield's playing in center field, but then you'd have like Jorge Soler and Puig on the corners. I mean, obviously the Royals aren't going to be competing, but that's a pretty good outfield.
Yeah, and honestly, when I went to Kansas City in 2017, they have one of the most loyal fan bases. They weren't even close to being in the playoffs in 2017, and this Kauffman Stadium was just completely packed. I mean, it is just crazy. It's one of the most beautiful ballparks I've ever been to. That actually does make a lot of sense. I could see Puig going there. It'll just depend upon, like we said, about the market, if someone gets injured or whatnot,
Yeah.
because spring training has started. People have gone to Arizona and Florida as we speak. They're probably tossing right now and just whatever. But yeah, man,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
just
injuries happen, that's for sure. I guess we can go and transition a little bit. One big one so
yeah,
far here in a couple
that's
days.
yeah.
Mike Clevenger, the just got surgery on a partial meniscus tear, and so
Hmm.
he's gonna be out 6 to 8 weeks. How do you think that's gonna affect the Indians here at the start of the season?
Oh man, listen, we all know how the AL Central has been in the past, and honestly, like right now, and we're gonna be talking about them in 2 weeks, the AL Central. But as a little preview, I mean, I just think this really hurts the Indians because it says his timetable to return is 6 to 8 weeks. Now that doesn't mean he's just going to go right to the majors. This is a guy who's going to miss all spring training because of this partial torn
Hmm.
meniscus. He is going to have to go to rehab starts or even just come out of the pen just to try and get back into a routine or and it's going to be really tough for Shane Bieber having to really hold that team, that pitching staff, I should say. With Mike Clevenger, now you're out potentially 3 to 4 wins when he's starting
Right.
because he probably won't come back until, personally, I don't think he's going to come back till maybe mid to late May. I mean, it's that kind of injury with those rehab starts, and this is where the Indians really need to get their pitching staff realigned because we know Kluber got
Yep.
dealt to the Rangers, and they had a good signing with Cesar Hernandez going to their second
Mhm.
baseman. That was a good fill in for Kipnis, but I'm really worried about their pitching staff and the way the Indian season's going to shape out now with this injury.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of weird with the AL Central because it's up for grabs, which,
Mm.
I mean, none of them are really runaway favorites, but I mean, you get the Indians, the Twins, and the White Sox that can all for sure compete. And so if you're going to take away a big mainstay in the rotation for the Indians, then I think you're kind of chomping at the bit if you're the Twins or the White Sox trying to get out to an early lead because
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I don't know, it'll be tough.
And I think that's the one division that probably the Central divisions, NL Central and the AL Central, where it's just question marks right now. It's up for grabs. And I think that's why it's so important. You can't miss a beat, right? And
Right.
people say the first 15 games really solidify your season and how you just carry about your team and whatnot. So it's up for grabs, but for right now, that's definitely helping the White Sox, and it's definitely helping the defending AL Central Division champs, the Minnesota Twins. So
Hmm.
that's that, and we'll close it at that. But now let's talk a little bit about spring training. We do know pitchers and catchers reported, and oh my gosh, it's music to my ears, bro. Like it really is. Like,
I know.
dude, I love the Twitter feeds where they're videos of, oh, like the sound is just, you just hear the pop of the mitt. It's just like, oh my god, it's amazing. I love that. I love seeing The players are really doing a lot of interviews, and they're coming out to talk about the Astros scandal, which we'll definitely get into here within the
Hmm.
next minutes. But I kind of want to talk about potential sleepers. So I have a list of some guys here that have been on just the verge of breaking out in 2020, and I'm going to go ahead and transition over here. And the first guy I want to talk about is Mitch Garver. Mitch Garver is just an absolute stud. If you take a look at his highlight, 2019, the dude has gotten better every single year from 2017 on. In 2017, he hit just about a buck 80. 2018 hit about 250, 260, and last year he hit about 270, 280, and his OPS was 858. This is a guy. He's 29 years old, catcher for the Minnesota Twins. He could also play first base. You really got to like what this guy can offer the AL Central Division champions from last year.
Yeah, anytime you can get any sort of offensive production out of the catcher position, that's kind of going to put you ahead because, you look around the league, there's only a handful of guys that are even putting up like a league average OPS behind the dish.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're giving up a little bit in the defensive department with Mitch Garver, but I mean, the dude can absolutely swing it. And so I think that that's definitely a trade off that you have to be willing to make. And I don't know. I think he's definitely going to play a big role. I mean, we talked about with the Indians pitching. I don't know. I haven't looked at the schedule, so I don't know if the Indians play the Twins early. But if the Indians pitching staff gets weaker and weaker, that's going to be a guy that'll benefit.
Oh, for sure. Just all across the AL Central, really, especially the Tigers, the Royals. He's going to beat up on these pitchers, especially Jordan Zimmerman, if he makes the team. I'm sure he will. But with Mitch Garver too, I don't know if you saw this or not. He changed his number actually, so he's 18. But Kenta Maeda, as we know from last week,
Mhm.
was traded to the Twins, and Garver, what a team guy! Just letting him wear the number, you gotta love it. I don't know what number he is now. Uh, do you know
Didn't
what
you just
number?
say 18?
No, he was 18.
Oh, he was 18.
He was
Okay.
18. I forget what number he is. It was, yeah, I don't remember, but
I don't
very,
know. It's not that important.
no, it really isn't. But I just thought it was, nice of him to do that. But be on the lookout for Mitch Garver. He's going to blow up. I'm telling you, he's going to blow up, and he's going to get a pretty big deal from the Twins. I guarantee it. So it's transition again. Next guy that we're going to talk about, John Jay. John Jay signed with the White Sox last year, and with John Jay, I mean, he hit 267. It was only 47 games, so it wasn't a good sample size. Not a guy known for power and everything like that, but I mean, you take a look still, he could be devastating for the Diamondbacks that he signed with. I mean, what do you think about John Jay? Do you think he could help the Diamondbacks out? Because we do know that they lost Adam Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I think he helps. As far as how much, I'm not really sure. I mean, like you said, last year he's only in 47 games, and that's not really a huge sample size to draw anything from. I mean, he's a guy he's probably not going to start, but he could be a guy that can either come in late or just play on days where other guys need days off, and you're not going to like have to super worry about that. I know like some teams you worry about depth, but I think for the Diamondbacks it's definitely a good depth piece. Play solid defense. You say it 260 in 47 games last year. I mean, that's not eye popping numbers, but for a backup type of guy, I think that's pretty solid. So I don't see any harm with signing a guy like John Jay.
Yeah, definitely. John Jay, he could definitely be a good fourth outfielder. And, I don't know if they have this award, but we kind of talked about how they could implement the 26th Man of the Year reward or award, I should say. Do they have a fourth, like a bench outfielder award for MLB? Do you know?
I don't think so.
Okay, that'd be kind of a cool award too, because that's someone who could really help change the game. John Jay, he's never had that great of an arm, but wow, can that guy move in the outfield though? So it'd be kind
Mhm.
of interesting to see how that plays out. Next guy that we're going to talk about is Andrew McCutchen. Now we know McCutchen, huge name, won National League MVP early on in the 2010s, which is weird to say, but I mean it's true. Another guy who can just get the job done. We know he tore his ACL. It was last year, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, he tore his ACL, but still, the guy could get it done. He had an OPS over 850 in just a small sample size games, but a leader in the clubhouse, him, Adam Hazley, and Bryce Harper. It's a nice molding unit out there in the outfield. What do you expect from McCutchen, you think, this year?
I mean, I say if he's healthy, he's going to hit. Um, obviously the defense has kind of fallen off, and I'm sure a torn ACL is not going to help that. But it's kind of one of those things where like we talked about it last week, how the Phillies they have a lot of guys in their lineup that are kind of question marks, like Reese Hoskins or Didi Gregorius, for example. And I think McCutcheon probably falls into that category. I would lean more to the side of where he's probably going to produce. I mean, he's been around for a while. He's a pretty savvy hitter. But I think he's a guy that could definitely, if he comes back healthy, could be a guy that provides some pop for their outfield. So, I mean, I think he's going to be pretty good this year.
Yeah, I do too, and I definitely think that's why he's a sleeper. And some people might say, well, why do you think he's a sleeper? It's a big name guy. Well, like you said, coming off of an injury, spring 2019, or I'm sorry, spring 2020, it'll be interesting to see how he comes back. We know he's going to be a corner outfielder kind of guy, probably in left field,
Mm.
and we'll see how he does. But don't sleep on my man Andrew McCutcheon. You just never know. And then I know that you said you have a potential sleeper as well, but I want to do one more potential sleeper, and that's Jorge Alfaro. Jorge Alfaro, we know he was part of that trade with um with JT Realmuto, and this is a guy who really is not that bad at all. 26 years old, and just it sucks that no one knows about him, especially in a pretty bad market for catching right now across Major League Baseball. I mean, he doesn't have a good OPS, but he hits for average. He hit 276 last year. That's pretty good for the Marlins. I mean, he still has a couple years left till arbitration, and never know with the way the farm system is with the Marlins. This is looking like he could be a potential sleeper for sure.
Yeah, he's a guy that I think that the Marlins intend to build around. Like you say, he's 26. He's still young. Obviously, he's not going to blow you away with the power, especially not in the Marlins Stadium. But he's a guy that can run a little bit, which is something that you don't necessarily see a catcher. He's got a pretty good arm, solid defense. So, I mean, he's not going to blow you away, but I think he's a pretty good piece, especially at the catcher position for what he provides.
Yeah, definitely. And this is really good for the Marlins just in general. I mean, you can't ask for much more because you gave away JT Realmuto. Usually, when you do a trade like this, you're not going to get that much back, but they got Sixto Sanchez and Jorge Alfaro back. You can't really complain about that. So
Mhm.
let's move on now. And now this is your guy. I know you're excited to talk about him. Talk about your sleeper, Noah.
Yeah, so the guy that I have as my picked out as my potential sleeper this year is Nate Jones.
Yep.
Pitched 2012, 2019 with the Chicago White Sox, signed this year with the Reds on a minor league deal. This is a dude that, when he's been healthy, has been lights out in the bullpen. From 2012 to 2019, 3.12 ERA, 1.22 WHIP, 318 strikeouts, which led all White Sox relievers for that time.
Ooh.
And you got to keep in mind that this is a guy that's had a lot of injury problems. So he's putting up
Yeah,
those numbers, and he's missed a significant amount of time.
that's impressive.
So that's kind of what the big question mark is. He's a guy that's been an all-star before. If he comes in and he's healthy, I think that he's probably the guy that grabs the last bullpen spot for the Reds, because they're pretty locked up in their bullpen. But there's one or two spots that are still kind of iffy. I think he definitely takes one of them. And he's a guy that, as the season goes on, we could be looking at that's pitching in the eighth inning as like the premium setup guy.
Yeah,
As long as he just stays healthy. And on top of that, it's also pretty cool. He's a Kentucky
there
guy,
it is.
born in Covington, played at NKU in college. So it's kind of cool from a community standpoint that he's a guy that could potentially break out and be really good, and he's from the area.
Yeah, he played at Pendleton County High School as well, and the dude had a nasty two seamer. He's got a weird. His mechanics are so weird the way he throws and everything like that. But the dude can hum 98 miles per hour, and his two seamer is disgusting. And it could be really good for the Reds. Even selling tickets and whatnot. People are going to want to come out to the ballpark from the Northern Kentucky area to watch him play, because when he was with the White Sox, I think they only played maybe twice at Great American in the past like six
Yeah.
or 7 years. So I think it's going to be really cool to see, and like you said, definitely a sleeper in a very, very solidified bullpen. I think the Reds were top five in Major League Baseball with their bullpen last year, so you can't go wrong there.
hmm Yeah, so I guess let's get into the elephant in the room with how bad it's been this week. I
Dude.
know you've put up a couple of different videos on the channel ranting a
Mhm.
lot about it. So I guess let's go ahead and get into this whole Astros controversy.
Oh, where do I begin? First of all, Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you haven't seen our videos posted on our channel, go ahead and do so after our live stream. You don't want to miss it. But where do I begin? Let's just go back to February 13th, 3 days ago. West Palm Beach, Florida. The first day, pitchers and catchers report, and the Astros held a media press conference to, in quotations, apologize to fans and players across America. What a load of crap. I mean, dude, it's ridiculous, man. The owner, Jim Crane, read off of 3 sheets of paper, and I mentioned this in the video. I've been studying communication for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 if you count undergrad and stuff like that. And you can tell when someone's not genuine or when they are genuine, and it's just ridiculous how they knew that this was coming, right? They knew that MLB was investigating. They knew that they would find something. And then they had 3 weeks to prepare, because usually with PR, what you should do is respond immediately after you get, those charges on you,
right.
The punishment. They waited till spring training, and they didn't seem prepared at all. Not at all. You had 3 weeks, almost a month, to prepare. And you could, listen, speech and drama class. I memorized a speech literally in like 3 to 4 days, okay? How hard can it be to memorize just a little bit of apology? If you're gonna fake it, at least make it good. Be a good actor.
Right.
This is just ridiculous. Reads off 3 sheets of paper, looks up literally for a split second, looks back down for a solid 10 seconds. I have the video on my channel. Alex Bregman comes up. I have never seen a robotic person ever like this. Just straight security camera, hands like this, scanning the audience. Dude, that it's like, Ricky Bobby, what are you doing with your hands? What are you doing? And then he's just not genuine. You can tell, because this is a guy who's very emotional as a baseball player. He puts it all out there. I will give him that. He's a heck of a baseball player. We can both agree there. He finished.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Finished second in the MVP votes last year, which I'm glad he didn't win, because just imagine if he would have.
Oh, I know.
But and then Jose Altuve, hands on the hips, just sighing. And the thing that really gets me, Noah, is the fact that they never said, yes, we cheated and we're sorry. All they said, and they kept repeating, they just kept saying, we apologize for breaking the rules. We apologize for breaking the rules. And then Jim Crane has the audacity to say that they deserve the 2017 World Series, and it is what it is. You intervene. I'm gonna intervene.
Yeah, I guess we'll start there with what. So Jim Crane said, he's like, yeah, I don't even think that this impacted the game. I don't know how you're just that naive to it. Honestly, of all the things, I don't know. I almost, and I know we're probably gonna get into talk about how other players have reacted, but I don't know if anyone saw Trevor Bauer's 7-minute video. I'm not sure if we put that on our Twitter or not, or if we probably get it up there after the the stream for people to watch. But he went off, and one of the things he said was he just would have rather them gone up there and just admitted they were cheating and just told the truth and just said honestly, they could have just said, yeah, we cheated, we're not sorry about it. But I would almost rather them do that than go up there and read off a card like this and be like, oh, we are so sorry for it's just,
yeah,
I don't know. And we'll get into it some more too. It was interesting to me because following along with the different quotes that players were giving, Carlos Correa was the guy to me that sounded the most genuine on the 13th.
On the 13th.
He was the only guy, yes. Right, on the 13th. And we'll get into why that's important later. But he was the only guy that was like, yeah, we messed up. This impacts the careers of other guys, and we can't take that back. He was the only guy that took that route with any of the apologies. Bregman and Altuve, I think, probably spoke for a combined minute and a half on their apologies, and they couldn't really even memorize that for the most part. It was just all around a train wreck of a PR day. Like you talked about, they should have had 3 weeks to prepare, and it sounded like they just kind of threw this together a minute and a half before they had to go up there. It's almost like they just forgot that this was going to have to be a thing, and they just threw it together last minute.
Yeah, it's like in high school, right? You go to homeroom, you're like, crap, I forgot to do my homework last night, or big project, hold on, let me just spend this 15 minutes real quick. Okay, here we go. This sounds somewhat decent. Okay, here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Done. It's like, dude, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I want to go back to what you said about how it didn't affect the game of baseball. Baseball, in and of itself, is the most purest American sport, right? A lot of people don't like change, and I know you're going to get into this when we talk about the playoff changes and stuff like that, potentially. This completely affects the game. This is the biggest baseball scandal since the Black Sox. 100%. Yeah. Biggest scandal. A team won the World Series with helps of cheating, with the use of technology, code breakers, banging on trash cans. Like, it is insane. And Rob Manfred is not going to punish the players, but he's going to punish the players who retaliate. The only punishment you should get, listen, the only punishment you should get as a pitcher if you plunk somebody, I think it depends where, obviously. I think respectable. If you respect the guy enough, you're going to hit him, in the ribs or not. I don't think they really should, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Just eject him immediately. No warnings, just eject him. But how are you not even going to suspend any of the Houston Astros players for not even one game out of a 162 game season? How in the heck are you not going to do that? I am just baffled. I am just baffled with this how this all has shaped Major League Baseball. And the thing is, we're trying to grow the game. What are we teaching the younger generation? We're basically telling them, hey, you know what? It's okay to cheat. Mm-hmm. It's okay to cheat. It's okay to cheat in life. If you just want to do this, just give a half whatever apology, and it'll be okay. It's okay in life. No,
right.
You have to, if you want to be respected in life, not just baseball, you have to own up to your mistakes. Like you said, just say you cheated. And this is why I respect Jake Marisnick now. I always respected him, but he came out clean, just like immediately spring training, like, hey, I just want to get this off my chest. That's in our video as well. Very genuine. He admitted to it, whatever. We do know Marwin Gonzalez was the first player, though, to apologize.
Right.
Very genuine as well. But yet it's funny how the guys who are still on the Houston Astros, none of them seem genuine about what they did.
Right.
And, intervene again. Gosh.
Yeah, so I'll backtrack a little bit just to hit a couple of the different points.
Go for it.
Yeah, as far as punishing the players go, I want to preface this whole thing by saying I think they should be punished. I think that they should have been punished, but I get why they aren't. If you're looking at this and you're on the outside and you're having to investigate the situation, which they did a horrible job of doing, I'll go ahead and get that out of the way as well. They did not do a good job with this. But, a lot of your information is going to have to come from the players. And part of the reason that it's hard to it would be hard to punish is, like, if I'm a player and I know I'm going to get suspended for 15, 20 games if I divulge any information, why would I tell you anything,
Mm-hmm.
So I get why they gave why they gave them immunity or whatever to the punishments. And I'm not saying it's right, but I get why they did it. And, another thing that's kind of hard too is, how do you prove who used it, how much they used it? Like, how do you divvy that up? Like, how do you divvy the severity of it in terms of, like, a guy like I don't know if you've seen this website or not. Have you seen the website of the Astros fan that was tracking the games? Have you seen that, where they're tracking? Okay.
No.
So there's a really dedicated Astros fan that's good with creating websites, and basically what he did is he's gone through and he's been watching the Astros games, and he's been tracking every time that there was, like, a bang.
Oh, wow.
And then what player was at bat, and, like, what the situation was. Like, did they get a hit? Did they strike out? Like, whatever it was.
I know Evan Gattis is one of the main ones.
Yeah, and so, it's kind of one of those things where obviously you can do that to an extent, but, like a guy like Tony Kemp, I think the guy said he's done somewhere around 80 games so far. Tony Kemp has 0. So it's kind of like, do you punish him the same way you punish a guy like Bregman or Altuve? So it's just kind of hard to prove where the line is for those punishments. And so, it's not right that they're not getting punished, but I get why it didn't happen.
Yeah, and that's a logical argument. For me, it's just a gray area, right? Because I saw the article as well, and Tony Kemp's now with the Athletics, which I think is a tremendous signing, by the way. He got called up late September of 2017, and he mentioned how he didn't want to be a part of it. But what bothers me the most, Noah, is the fact that even though the players who weren't doing it, they did not stop it or try to stop it. Like
Mhm.
that's why I think it should be even punishment, because you know what's going on, you know it's wrong, and you're a team. And with the integrity of the game of baseball, baseball is a team sport. It's the most
Yeah,
individual team sport in the world, I think. And that's just my biggest issue. I definitely think the main guys should be. I don't know. Like you
yeah,
said,
I know. I get what you're saying, and I mean, that's kind of part of it too, though. Like if you're one of those guys, let's say you're a Tony Kemp.
yeah,
He's a guy that's kind of like a marginal roster guy. Like he's not a guy that's going to come in. No, he's starting. If he's the guy that speaks up, if this doesn't get out, then he gets cut by the Astros and probably just gets blackballed from the organization,
yeah.
if not from the league. 'Cause, you have to keep in mind this is not a new thing. Like the players have come out and said they've known about this since it's been going on,
Mike fires. Yeah,
and it's kind of one of those things where it's like it's the MLB almost seems like they've been kind of trying to keep this under wraps for a while now, and so it took Mike Fiers coming out and putting his name on it for it to even get out there. So
yeah. That's
if
that's the weird thing, because players are gonna play on different teams, right?
mm,
Especially in 2018, that's the biggest question, because the Red Sox played the Astros in the ALCS. Both teams had to have known that they were, cheating, right?
yeah,
Like I don't. That's why I don't understand like why this hasn't broken sooner. That's my biggest question mark.
yeah, I mean, I just think it's one of those things where, it takes someone who's got the guts to go out and be like, hey, yeah, we did all this stuff and put their name to it. I think that that's what's been, the dividing line has been coming out like publicly attaching your name to it, and that's why I commend Mike Fiers for doing it. I gained a
Yeah,
lot of respect for him. Despite the fact that he was there and he didn't stop it while he was there. But once you get to a new team, it's a lot easier because you're not going to get the entire clubhouse isn't going to turn on you. You're not going to get
yeah,
blackballed from that organization and just be
absolutely.
kind of like the butt end of every joke. And so once you're on the Athletics, it's a lot easier to say, "Hey, yeah, this was going on while I was there, and so this is something that should probably get looked into."
Yeah, for sure. But that's still though. I wonder why he waited till the end of the 2019 season, because he signed with the Athletics in 2018. He could have said
Yeah.
something sooner. But still, I mean, it's just this whole thing is just an absolute mess. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we know that Cody Bellinger sounded off on it, and he had the best response by far. Actually, hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull it up, because this is just too good. It's just
Yeah, I'll go ahead and speak on one other thing that I
go
meant
for
to
it.
get to and just kind of got lost in a rant. With the hit by pitch thing, I don't think anyone should be throwing at anyone, anyways. I mean, you're playing with a dude's career, and
Yeah, that's true.
while the chances are extremely small, you could be playing with a dude's life. I mean, you're throwing a projectile at 100 miles an hour to a defenseless guy. So to me, I don't
Yeah,
think there should be any of that going on, anyways. But as a Reds fan, the stuff went down with the Pirates last year, the entire season, and everyone knew that people were throwing intentionally and nothing happened.
yeah,
And so then now nothing's even happened yet, and we're already saying, hey, we're going to protect these guys that have been cheating this whole time. So, I as a fan, it rubs me the wrong way that, this is what it's taking for them to step in with the hit by pitches in general, and the fact that the team they're stepping in to do it for is the team that's cheating.
yeah. Exactly. And you don't wish injury among anyone at all. Like you don't want that. But let me transition real quick, because I'm going to show the video.
Mhm.
Let's see what we got here. I'm going to full screen this. I'm going to turn it up. And so this is what we got from Cody Bellinger, who responded to the fake apologies from the Houston Astros. Actually, it looks like we're having some audio difficulties with that, so we're just going to bring it back. But if you haven't seen the video, you need to. It's on our channel. Um, it's really important that you do, because he really started this whole revolution of players
Mhm.
starting to react. Chris Bryant came out and spoke on it. Yu Darvish today was talking about how they should be stripped of the World Series, and that's what I wanted to ask you, Noah. Do you think they should be stripped of their 2017 World Series?
I don't know. I mean, I guess. Like I
No, no,
don't.
no, no, no. You gotta
Well, let me finish.
choose.
Let me finish my thought. But
Okay.
I guess yes, but what's it really gonna do? You know, um, they still have all the money that they got from the World Series.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not really taking anything away from them except for a banner that everyone's gonna remember them winning, anyways. You know, I was talking to someone about this the other day. The thing that I pointed to was like the 2013 Louisville men's basketball team when they
Yeah.
won the championship and it got stripped away. You know, all I think it's becomes is just like a big joke of, oh no, nobody won that year, just messing around. But everyone still
Yeah.
associates the Louisville Cardinals with winning that championship. So I don't think that that does anything. What I think the difference should have been is, yeah, you can take the title away, but I just think that they went super soft as far as the punishment goes.
Dude,
They
they
gave him,
they so did. Oh my gosh.
it's like, so they fined him $5 million, which is, absolutely nothing to the Houston Astros, who have been playoff teams for I don't know how many consecutive years they've made the playoffs now. But $5 million to them is absolutely nothing, you
Yeah.
know, which is really more of an MLB problem because $5 million is the maximum fine. So I think that's more the problem
It
than the
is.
fact that because they gave him a max fine,
It-
which
And
is
they
fair.
they brought in
But
so much more than $5 million during the World Series too.
oh yeah,
Way more.
it's just it seems like they should have raised what the max fine was allowed and then fined them by whatever they set the new cap at.
No, I agree, and I'm glad that they did strip away, future first round picks because that's huge for
Mhm.
future of the Astros. But one thing I think that's so crazy about this whole cheating scandal too, you have MLB players who get suspended 80 games for performance enhancing drugs, right? And
Mhm.
that's perfect. That's fine.
Yeah.
But with that, you still have to make contact with the baseball. You don't know what's coming. Yet when you know what's coming and you can sit on it, and these are guys who spent their whole lives hitting off a tee, learning how to hit and whatnot, and you're not going to suspend them not even one game. It just does not make sense. People, I don't even know who said it, but someone said that the sign stealing is worse than steroids, and I completely agree, 100%.
Yeah, I'm there with that. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. The MLB just backed themselves into a corner as far as punishing players, and it sucks, but it's kind of where we are now.
Yeah,
You know, I think, and we'll kind of because we've kind of gotten into players talking about it. I think the best thing that's come out of this is the fact that players are willing to speak out about something for once.
yeah,
You look at Bellinger. I mean, obviously Trevor Bauer is kind of the exception because he's always been a guy that's and I respect him for that. He's actually, I used to not like Trevor Bauer back when he was with the Indians because I just didn't follow him that well. But now that he's been a Reds guy and I'm following consistently, I'm like, this guy's just saying what everybody's thinking. And
literally giving the MLB players a voice.
yeah, and so I think, and I hope really that, this is kind of going to be a thing that maybe it'll turn into players starting to speak out more about any grievances they have. Bauer's 7-minute rant, and then Trent Rosecrans, a reporter for the Reds, asked him one question about the Astros at spring training, and he talked for almost 30 minutes about it.
Yeah,
And so, they offer all these different suggestions. Like I know Bauer specifically is like, why not just get rid of like blackout stuff and let players wear whatever color cleats they want?
that
It's
was
just
in
kind
the
of one
Rob
of those things.
Manfred rant about the playoffs. Yeah,
Yeah, and so it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, hopefully this gets the ball rolling where players can show some personality and they can like actually speak out about something and have a voice.
and you know what I never even thought of, which is this is horrible to say, but it's honestly true. I think you're going to see the greatest ratings of baseball this year, honestly, because why wouldn't you not want to watch to see how the Astros are going to play against these teams at home now, or just baseball in general? How are these players going to come together? How are they going to play against each other? How many brawls are there going to be? And my favorite thing is the small talk, right? Because there's
Mhm.
always small talk with Major League Baseball players. They laugh and whatnot. How you doing? Whatever on first base. When they're playing the Astros, I guarantee, like, it's going to be interesting to see some of these chirps or something. It
Oh
really
yeah.
is. So I definitely think the 2020 ratings are going to be good because I know for sure I'm going to be tuning in to almost every single baseball game that I can outside of the Athletics and Reds. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
if I'm an owner, especially if I'm a AL West owner, I'm salivating at getting to play the Astros because think
Yeah.
about how many more people are going to come to the stadium just to heckle the Astros.
To boo them, right?
And that's which is going to be really cool. Is you're going to have all the people. I can't wait to see all the different signs that people are going to be holding
Oh
up.
my gosh, that's going to be
It reminds me,
amazing.
if you remember a few years ago, like the Hunter Pence thing when that started going viral, where people were
Oh
writing different insults
yeah,
to Hunter
I
Pence on the
remember that. I
signs.
remember that, dude.
It's good.
Wow.
I would imagine it's gonna be a similar situation to that. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. It has me. I mean, I'm already pretty invested as far as baseball goes, but it
Right,
has
right.
me maybe just even another, level more just because I'm excited to see that.
And it's the same thing with hockey, right? If even if you're not a hockey fan, you love to see hockey fights, right? You like to see
Hmm.
confrontation. You like to see how people talk to each other. And I'm not saying I want to see fights, which I everyone loves a brawl every now and then. It's cool. It's cool to see,
Hmm.
but just to see how their nonverbals, right? What is their body language like when they're around or standing on first base with Jordan Alvarez or something like that, or you know what I mean,
Hmm.
or Yuli. It'll be unique, that's for sure. Do you have any closing thoughts on the Astros?
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to get into the Correa
Oh yes,
comments
yes.
because
How
we
did I
didn't even
forget
touch
about that?
that.
Yes, you go. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't know as much about it. I know you made a video about it, and
Yeah.
so, but I was on the Correa train on Tuesday because he was the only Astros player that made like a half decent, like semi genuine apology, and then man, he just turned around and kind of messed it up.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go. So I completely agree with you, and I don't appreciate how he spoke to Ken. Right, Ken
Yeah,
Rosenthal. He's a tremendous MLB reporter, has been for years, and I'm glad he called him out on it. He called him out, and how people say the word moist. You know how that's like a trigger word. For
hmm
me now, it's when people say, "Oh, in the commissioner's report," and it's like it drives me nuts. But no, when it felt like he was disrespecting Kenan a little bit. Like, how dare you ask me this question? It's like,
yeah,
but then you say how you defend Jose Altuve, how he should have won the 2017 MVP. I'm sorry, I don't think so. Yes, you could say his numbers so and so, but no matter what, the way that team image is, it's tainted. We don't know if he cheated or not, and especially last year in the ALCS when he hit the walk-off versus Chapman. I just saw today, John Boy Media, if you guys haven't checked him out, tremendous freelance reporter. Um, he there were pictures of Altuve. He didn't wear a shirt the entire game, like an undershirt,
hmm
and then he had one on in the eighth and top of the ninth inning, a blue shirt underneath his jersey, and then back in the bottom of the ninth there wasn't a shirt again. Well, that's kind of weird. I never even realized that until that was literally
hmm
pointed out on Twitter today. And then Korea now. Why is it a thing now? Why is it a thing now after a month after this reporting that the reason why I covered up was because he had an unfinished tattoo? Why was that not the first thing you said? Why was
right.
this?
Well,
That's
why
the
didn't
biggest
that come
issue.
out? Why didn't Altuve say that?
Yeah. Why do you say my
Because I mean,
wife?
like, yeah, it was the wife excuse before where they were like, yeah, the last time someone ripped my shirt off, my wife got mad, and so then Altuve or not Altuve, Correa says that and
Yep.
says the tattoo thing. But if you go look at Altuve's Instagram, one, he posts shirtless pictures of himself all the time, and
Exactly.
two, there's no tattoo on his collarbone anywhere. Like what they're talking about with, oh, it was because there's an unfinished tattoo. There's no tattoo.
It'd be funny if like the reporters now just like, hey, Altuve, can we see your tattoo? And you're like, oh no, 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 you
Well,
can't
what I
see it.
really hope happened is that to try and match Correa's story,
He
he
got
went to
a
the tattoo parlor
tattoo.
and got a really bad tattoo.
Just like, see, that's when your wife would get mad, right?
Right.
And it just leads me down this road even more. One lie turns into another lie that leads down more
Mhm.
lies. It just tree branches off, right? And that's what just aggravates me. They still didn't apologize. And Correa, why does Correa have to speak about this? About his tattoo? Why did Altuve not? He could have had his chance in the press conference, like, or something. Every time he's been questioned, to talk about it, like, oh, my
Yeah.
tattoo, and then he's defending Altuve for saying that Altuve's not sorry because he didn't cheat. That just looks even worse because you're
Mhm.
apologizing for Altuve
Right.
instead of indirectly, and then he's still not apologizing. Correa, no one has said I've cheated. God, drives me nuts, Noah. Drives me nuts.
Yep. So you want to get into this new playoff format. Let's get off the Astros maybe for a little bit.
Yes, thank you. But yes, if you guys would like to see our videos, they're on our channel. One of them's 5 minutes long, the other one's about 7. Pretty good videos. So just give it a listen to if you like it. But yeah, we're going to talk about the new playoff format. So it was announced too this past week that as soon as 2022, we could see a 14-team playoff format. That's literally almost half the league making the playoffs. A lot of people says that this just promotes mediocrity, which you can argue that. I understand. And a lot of people say they like this for TV ratings and stuff like that. So we're going to go with original thoughts. But before we do that, we're going to talk about the format here. So let me bring you over here for a second. So right here, this is the proposal. So 7 teams from each league make the postseason. So 7 from the American League, 7 from the National League. Teams with the best record in each league get wild card round byes. So that'd be one of the division winners. The 2 other division winners and top wild card team host all games of 3-game series in the wild card round. So you could say goodbye to the one and done playoff. Another 2 other division winners get to pick their wild card round opponents during a live broadcast from 3 other wild card teams. The top wild card team plays the unpicked team. And then the 3 series winners and team with a bye then advance to what you traditionally know as the divisional round. So let's bring you back over here to Noah and myself. Noah, what do you think about this?
To put it bluntly, I hate it.
Okay, why?
You know, I think a lot of the people that like this, and you may have different opinions in some of it, it's just that people like the idea that more teams are going to get in. But what I think that this does is it kind of unravels what we've seen this offseason of, paying players closer to what they're actually worth, buying in to try and get competitive. I think that this almost kind of unravels that because you're lowering the bar so much to get into the playoffs. One of the things I'll point to would be we kind of criticize the Red Sox for the Mookie Betts trade. Let's say if that were happening this year with the playoff format, how do you criticize them? Because the Red Sox are probably still good. We'll get into it a little bit later. They're probably still good for a mid 80s win total, which is enough to get you into a 14-team playoff. So how do you criticize trading the second best player? I think, and you kind of mentioned it at the top of when we got into this, it promotes mediocrity. Why do you need more than 80 wins? So teams can cut payroll, lowers the bar to get in. You can get away with not having good players. So I think we see a lot more of what we saw last year, which I didn't think was good for the game in terms of Keuchel and Kimbrel sitting out for half the season. I think that if this happens, you're going to see a lot more of that because teams aren't going to be willing to pay as much for good players, because they'd be like, well, yeah, we could sign a guy like Garrett Cole for $30 million a year, or we could just go sign Kenta Maeda for $10 million a year. And because we don't need that many wins to get in, we'll be fine, So I'm not a fan of it, but I mean, I guess I see why for TV ratings and stuff like that, people like it, but I'm just not a fan.
Well, I see where you're coming from because if we put it, let's just bring the NBA into this. We know that 8 teams make it from each side, right? Or at least that's how it was. I know they changed something recently.
It's still 8 from each side.
So my favorite team is the Indiana Pacers, and they've been probably one of the most. They've been, they're a decent team. They always have been, but they've never really made that one just huge signing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they have Oladipo and everything like that. But I can see where you're coming from where it promotes mediocrity, just getting the playoffs. I see where you're coming from. But with baseball, and I know it's from a pure standpoint, a lot of people don't like it. Now, one thing I will say that I don't like about the new playoffs, I don't like that the first team gets a wild card bye because you're used to a routine for 5 to 6 months. And then all of a sudden you have 10 days off potentially. And that could really mess you up because in baseball, anyone can win, right? But I personally like it because it's usually the same teams that get in nowadays because everyone is making those big splashes with Garrett Cole. The Yankees are buying in. They have a lot of money. Now, my favorite team, the Athletics, they have a really good ball club. They have for the past couple of years, but it's really hard when you are a lower end team and you can't afford the Garrett Coles. You know what I'm saying? And like you
Mhm.
still do have that talent, the farm system, for that. Now with TV ratings and everything to touch base on that, everyone loves playoff baseball because it keeps you on your toes. You literally don't know what's going to happen until the crack of the bat or something like that. You just don't know. That's the greatest thing about baseball. Greatest the most key moment of the game could happen in the first pitch. It could be a 1-0 game home run, right?
Mhm.
You just never know. Um, but I do like it. More teams getting in the playoffs mean more revenue, and inflation's going to happen if that does, right? So players are going to ask for more money because teams are going to be bringing in a lot more revenue. But baseball is ever evolving, right? I mean, there used to be only two leagues and they made it to three. Now you have six divisions, and there didn't used to be a designated hitter. Now there is a designated hitter, and now they're about to add the designated hitter to both leagues. And it's just, I like it. I think it'll be trial and error, that's for sure. You know, they might have to tweak some things and whatnot. What would be smart, honestly, and I just thought about this, what if you try it with the minor league teams? Try it with the minor league teams, see how that shapes out, and then if they complain or they have any complaints about that, because even though they're not the same level caliber players yet, they're still going through the same routines, right? So it could be
Yeah,
trial and error. So that's just those are the main reasons why for me why I like it.
yeah. So my initial thought to trying it in the minor leagues is that I don't think that it matters in the minor leagues because teams don't spend to win minor league,
Okay, yeah,
whatever
yes,
playoffs.
that's true.
So
Yes, I
so I
understand.
think,
Yes.
a lot of the pushback on this is teams don't have to try to win 100 games anymore. You can win 80 games and get in. A team that I point to would be like the Milwaukee Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
They marginally got worse this year.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
lost
I
James
agree.
Grandal. Their big signings are Justin Smoke and Ryan Healy. Realistically, they're not a playoff team this year, unless things really break for them in the NL Central.
Yeah.
And that's a playoff team, and they just cut payroll and let arguably the best catcher in baseball walk, and suddenly they're now a playoff team. I don't see it. I don't like that you have teams that are mediocre and shouldn't be playoff teams that are in there. You know, um, I do like that the MLB is trying to make changes. I'll say that. I just don't think that this is it. I think, and even if you like changing the playoff format, and I'm not necessarily against changing the playoff format if
Yeah.
you want to get like more teams in, but I don't think this is the way to do it. I think part of it is that they saw the NBA with the All Star game go, hey, we're going to do this cool thing where the players draft the teams and then we just get an extra TV spot for an hour. And the MLB's like, yeah, let's do that because that's going to be more money. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like the idea of let's try and change some things. Maybe we go at the DH. Let's get the two leagues on the same rules. I think that might be a good step in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get rid of MLB blackout restrictions so that the fans of teams can actually watch their teams play.
Let me cut in real quick because
Yep.
that is such a good reason. Because I want to get MLB TV, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be able to see my favorite team's the Athletics, so that doesn't matter anyway. But I still want to watch my Reds. That's my favorite National League team, like, and I can't do that, but I can watch all their 29 teams. It doesn't make sense. And continue, but that's just yeah,
Yeah, and you let players wear whatever color cleats they want to. I don't think that's asking for a whole lot. And it's like, are we really going to fine players $10,000 because they're
mm-hmm.
wearing green shoes? Like that to me seems just ridiculous.
Yeah,
Um, One thing that they changed that I do like this year is they finally are kind of they reached negotiations with minor leagues to increase the pay for minor leaguers.
yeah,
I think that's a huge step in the right direction. You
yeah.
know, but then they're also focusing on things that seem dumb. Like they're trying to cut 42
Mm-hmm.
minor league teams out of minor league baseball. I'll point to the playoff format as something I don't like. This whole two-way player designation rule thing that doesn't make any bit of sense. I don't like. And then I'm also not a fan of the three batter minimum, but
Yeah, I'm not
that's
either. I'm not either, and I don't.
so I just
That would be
it
a sore
feels like
spot for me.
it feels like the MLB needs to be pushing for, because baseball in terms of in across the country is kind of declining in a way when you look at like the NFL and the NBA have really taken over the MLB as far as popularity.
Yeah.
And so I think their focus right now needs to be kind of getting this generation of fans that's coming up right now. And you're not going to do that if players are told to have no personality, to never speak out. You
Right.
can't wear what you want to wear. You can't watch your own favorite team because you have MLB TV, and so they're just gonna have a blackout. Like I think those are the things that need to be fixed, not the playoff format. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. And going back to the playoff format, we actually have a comment in our YouTube section by King Kong Witty. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, I apologize. And they said, "I hate this new playoff setup. Nothing beats a wild card game, winner takes all." And you know what? I honestly, I could see where they're coming from because I remember watching the Nationals Brewers game on TV. Right? I mean,
Mhm.
Brewers were out in front, and then all of a sudden, here comes Juan Soto, makes an error. Like it was exciting for me, and this is a little bit biased because it happened to my favorite team, the Athletics. When you win 97 ball games back to back years and you're forced to take a one game playoff, it's just a sore spot for me because you're playing a 162 game season and you play 3 game to 4 game series, and then it just comes down to one, and then you could just go home the very next day. And I understand the excitement, right?
Mhm.
And I would like to see, even if it was the first step, if they just did a best of 3 for the wild card. If
Yeah, and
but
that's what I was gonna say when you finished talking was let's make that change.
yeah,
It's and baseball's it's a weird example because you play 162 games and like it's still really not clear who the best teams are all the time.
yeah,
I think you look at the NBA, they play 82 games, but it's pretty clear who the top teams are. Like I think we went through a stretch for what 3 or 4 years where before the season even started, everyone knew it was going to be
Golden
Golden
State,
State versus Cleveland in the
yeah,
finals.
yeah.
You know, Baseball is one of those sports where you can't do that, and where teams just get lucky on one given day. And
But
so,
but then if you do look, I mean, look at the San Francisco Giants in 2014, right? And or was it 2012? One of those years they were the wild card and they won the one game and then they went on to win the World Series. So
yeah, no, I
it's
mean,
a gray area.
I like the idea of a three team instead of or not a three team, a 3 game instead of a 1 game,
Yeah, I
because I
do
think
too.
the more games you play, the higher the likelihood is that the better team is going to come out on top. Where if you just play 1 game, especially in a sport like baseball, you're really just flipping the coin.
Yeah, you really are. And baseball's ever evolving. This isn't even set in stone for this potential playoff format. It's just a projection, what could be that they thought about. I mean, you could. I don't know. The first thing I would do is just make it a 3 game wild card series. That's the
Yeah,
only thing I
no,
could see for right now.
I'm definitely on board for that. So
Okay. Okay. Are there any other pros and cons you can think about? For me, I mean, it could change pitching, right? Because you can't. It's hard to tell towards the end of the season too, because you want to try and get your best pitcher in that wild card game. The issue for the A's in 2018 was they pitched Liam Hendricks. He never started a game, and it
right.
wasn't his breakout year, and uh, and whatnot.
Yeah, it's
So,
definitely if you look at like with the new playoffs, let's say that like for the Yankees get the number one like spot or whatever.
mhm.
So the season ends, all of the wild card stuff has to get sorted out. So Garrett Cole's just going to be sitting at home on 10 or 11 days rest. And then let's say like some mediocre-ish team, like let's say like the Angels, because they're probably going to finish middle of the pack AL West.
Yeah.
They get in and they've won 84, 85 games, whatever, and they've just made it out of this wild card thing. And now they have to face a fresh Garrett Cole on 10 days rest when they've just come out of playing in this wild card format, and they're probably on like either their first starter on a short rest or like their third starter in the rotation.
I'm glad.
I
I'm literally
just
so glad you just said that because we have another comment that says, "What's with the top pick or the top team picking the team that they play?" Because that's such a huge advantage. And like you said, they have to face a very, very fresh 2 week rested Garrett Cole potentially.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the whole picking teams thing.
I'm not either. I think that's dumb. The whole
I
TV thing, like choosing, that's just dumb. It should be like
Yeah,
best rec. Yeah,
I don't
just
know. It
dumb.
just it kind of rubs me the wrong way that they're just getting all, because like if you're the best, if you finish with the best record, then like you get the benefit of playing the worst team already. So
Yeah,
like, or the worst team record wise. I mean, obviously
right.
sometimes it's close, but
Yeah.
you get to play the worst team record wise, and that feels like that should just be the benefit there,
Hmm.
instead of just picking another team. You know?
Yeah, because here's the thing that I just saw. You could, let's say the Mets get in the playoffs, right? Mets have never really been a good team in the playoffs, but if you're the first team picking and you get to pick whoever you want, you notice that they have a fresh Syndergaard, they have a fresh Degrom. You're going to choose the better team that doesn't have those kind of
Right.
pitchers, right? And that's the thing that's kind of ridiculous about choosing your own team, and it's just not fair to the other teams, especially when you have 2 weeks of rest, where you could literally just go all out with your energy and stuff like that, and not have to worry, and you get to scout, watch the games on TV.
Right.
I'm right there with you for sure. I'm right there with you for sure. Any closing remarks for the playoff before we move on?
No, I think I've covered everything I wanted to say about it. So I think unless you've got anything, we could probably move into previewing since we're about an hour in.
Yeah, hey, this is good content for everyone. We do have our live stream up. You can feel free to comment when we go through these teams. Let us know what you're thinking. Be good to hear from everyone. So, first team that we're going to talk about, we're just going to get it out of the way. The Baltimore Orioles. You want to start with this one, Noah?
Yeah, not really a whole lot going on here. I will say, and this is another guy that I think that could be a breakout. I didn't mention him in the spring training stuff because I don't know if it really matters for spring training as much as it
Yeah.
just does as a guy to watch in the regular season. But they picked up Cole Stewart, who's the former number 4 overall pick from the Twins. Not really a whole lot of time in the big leagues. Kind of struggled in a little bit that he's been there, but this is a guy that was drafted, I think, in like 2015. He's not that old.
Mm-hmm.
He's it is a guaranteed major league deal, so he's going to be in the rotation. Frankly, looking at the rotation, looking ahead a little bit, I definitely think he's probably going to be one of like the top 2 or at the worst 3 pitchers in their rotation, anyways.
Yeah.
So I mean, he seems like a guy to keep an eye on. The other guy who I'm not a fan of is Jose Iglesias. That's the only other real addition that they made this year. That's 1 year, $3 million deal. Subtractions: Jonathan VR and Dylan Bundy, who we talked about VR last week. Dylan Bundy's went to the Angels. We'll talk about him a few weeks from now. But how do you feel about the Orioles this year? Do you think that they win, or do you think they win enough to not lose 100 games, or do you think that they're definitely losing 100 again?
No, they're definitely going to lose at least 100. That's for sure. It's just such a tough division with just over around. Not necessarily the greatest division of pitching that we'll see, but the offense is just going
Mm-hmm.
to be brutal. And then the fit for the pitchers is going to really show for the Orioles because, or not fit. FIP will probably be decent. That's what we really have to look at for the Orioles. But the ERA is going to be astronomically
Well,
high, just for
I
me.
would say that their FIPS are probably going to be high. FIPS
I
more
mean,
of
they
like
they
a
will.
it's more of like a 3 true outcome kind of stat. So you're looking a lot at your strikeouts, your walks, and your home
Home
runs.
runs, yeah.
And man, do the Orioles give up a lot of home runs.
But I'm saying it's not
Especially,
going to be as high as the ERA though. That's what I'm saying
yeah. I mean,
because they don't have that good of defensive players. That's why
yeah,
yeah.
their stats will look ugly. I think that we could just put it that way.
Um, yeah, I mean, especially with Jose Iglesias, this is a guy who doesn't hit for power. He did hit for average with the Reds, if you want to say that in a hitter-friendly ballpark. 15 points below average for OPS plus, and that was in a hitter-friendly ballpark. Just keep that in
Right.
perspective.
And that's like a career year for him if you look at his stats otherwise. So 15% below average as a career year,
It's not
I
very
would
good
expect some regression, which is pretty bad.
for sure. He can't move like he used to with the Tigers, that's for sure. I do think it's nice to have a veteran guy though on the team,
Mhm.
especially with VR being departed and Dylan Bundy. I mean, those you think Orioles, you think Trey Mancini, but when you look kind of underneath the bread and butter, VR's gone, and then Dylan Bundy, who you could probably say was their ace, now goes to the West Coast, and now for me, their ace is probably going to be Asher Wachachowski. Um, so it's going to be interesting, and then Yeah, so and then another comment's funny. As a Yankees fan, I love the Yanks O's because it was BP for them. At one point in the season, Torres had half of the home runs against them. Dude, I remember watching the Yankees Orioles game. It was opening day, and opening day, you're just like, oh, it's a new season, this and that. No,
Mhm.
dude, literally the Yankees dropped about 6 runs or 7 runs in the first like 3 innings. Luke Voigt hit one dead center. I was just like, yeah, it's gonna be a rough year for the O's.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, losing Dylan Bundy kind of sucks, but I'm really happy for Dylan Bundy that he's going to be out of there.
Yeah.
He's like only 27 still, and people forget that because it feels like he's been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, he's got a chance to go to the Angels and kind of break out a little bit, especially because he'll be towards the top of their rotation because they don't have much pitching either.
He was a former high
Um,
draft pick too.
yeah. The rotation, you said Asher Wojciechowski. I would probably center in on John Means. I think he was their lone All-Star representative last year because I don't know if VR made it or not, but I know he's the only pitcher that represented them. He kind of came out of nowhere. He's like 27 or 28 rookie last year. I don't know if there's a chance that he regresses, but the fact that you can look at their team and go, yeah, Asher Wojciechowski has a chance to be their ace. I mean, that's just
It's tough. It's tough. It really is. Uh, let's go ahead. I'm gonna pull their lineup up right now, the potential projecting lineup, and let's just go down and kind of give our thoughts and whatnot. So at catching we have Chance Cisco, barely broke the Mendoza line. We got Chris Davis. Oh gosh, and that's honestly real quick. That's what really has sucked for the Orioles, right? They haven't been able to go and even try to improve their team because they're stuck in this Chris Davis deal. They can't send him down, right? They can't send him down at all, and he's being way overpaid after that one tremendous year. Because I remember he was the guy who almost threatened Miguel Cabrera's triple crown
Mhm.
when he won that MVP, and then literally just what happened? What
well.
happened to Chris
Here, I'll
Davis?
give you. Well, what happened is the shift.
Yeah,
But one interesting fact before we move on from Chris Davis, he has as many 50 home run seasons as Barry Bonds.
that's crazy. That's
Yeah, it's
insane.
one, but it's still
It's still crazy though. I mean, just think of the
yeah,
player he was.
it's weird to think about.
Um, Then you got Hanser Alberto at second base, Rio Ruiz at third, as we mentioned, Jose Iglesias at short, and then you feel bad for this guy, and I can't wait for him to get out of Baltimore. Trey Mancini, dude, Trey Mancini, he is such an undervalued player, and for him to hit even 270, having to carry the team and stuff like that, especially in a pitcher-friendly ballpark with the stats he's putting up. I mean, what do you see with Trey Mancini? Like, what do you see his future, and like in the near future? What do you see with him?
Um, I mean, I just hope they can get the man some help. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
guy that hits for pretty decent average, hits for power. Not really going to do a ton for you in the field, but I mean, he could play first in the corner outfield spots, which I mean is fine. I mean, I think he's just kind of going to be the perennial all star since all the teams have to have a representative. I think he's just going to continue to be that guy for the Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I feel bad for the guy. You almost kind of got to hope that, Austin Hayes is a guy that he'll be in the outfield with this year. That's a former top prospect.
Yep. I think he's
Ryan
actually gonna be pretty good.
Mountcastle. Yeah, I do too. Ryan Mountcastle and Adley Rutschman are a couple other guys that'll probably be up sooner than later.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
He's gonna be coming up real quick.
yeah, Hanser Alberto, who we mentioned, doesn't get on base outside of the fact that he hits like for average.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he was at the top of the league in average last year. So like there are a couple of diamonds in the rough, for lack of a better term. But I don't know. There's just not a whole lot here to this roster.
No, there really isn't. And then you got Renato Nunez, who was a third baseman, and he was actually in the Oakland A's organization. He's gonna be their DH. Um, it just really sucks too that they're gonna have to go up against the Rays, the Yankees, especially, and the Red Sox. Even the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have a better farm system than the Orioles. So if there's going to be one of those two teams that come out of the bottom sooner than later, it's going to be the Blue Jays. The Orioles are really kind of stuck right now, and it's like a glass ceiling. They see where they need to be, but they can't get there.
Yep.
And it's crazy when you say this because this was a team who used to make the playoffs, win 90 some ball games when Adam Jones was in his prime. Just even 4 or 5 years ago, just a way different team. It's crazy how fast a team can fluctuate from the top to bottom. But But Adley Rushman really didn't have that great year in the minors. He really didn't. He didn't even hit 240, but he's still a big prospect. He had an invitation to spring training. He's very good defensively. He's a switch hitter. He might just be someone who just needed to get accustomed to things. And I do think we'll see him this year for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about the fact. I mean, obviously you're coming off of a full college baseball season,
Yeah.
and then you go from that to adjusting to the minor leagues. I would
Yeah.
expect him to come out swing it this year. You already talked about the good defense. And the other thing that's interesting about him is he's a guy that if they really needed him to, like, yeah, he plays catcher, but he could play first, second, or third. Like, he's got
Yeah.
the glove to do it. So I don't know. I mean, he'll be a guy to watch. I don't know if he breaks the team this year or not. I think unless he's just absolutely knocking the cover off the ball and you can't excuse leaving him in the minors, it wouldn't surprise me if they left
Mm-hmm.
him down there to try and get an extra year of service time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, outside of him, there's not really a real good storyline for the Orioles. So
No.
any other remarks, or you want to move on to the Red Sox?
The last thing I would say is even if they had Jonathan VR, they'd still lose 100 games. I'm glad VR got out of there. But let's move on to the
Yep.
Red Sox. Red Sox, we know that Verdugo was part of that trade along with Jeter Downs. And who was the catcher? Connor something? What was his
Connor
name?
Wong.
Connor Wong. And unfortunate news for Red Sox fans out there. Alex Verdugo is not going to be ready probably for opening day. He doesn't need surgery, though, which is good. But that opens the door for Kevin Pillar. Opens the door for him, and we'll see if he can kind of produce. Kevin Pillar's been a guy who's always hit about 240, 250, but defensively he's going to be pretty nice there at Fenway.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love the Pilar signing as a depth guy. He's not going to be a guy that they're going to put in their lineup and they're going to expect to produce from that side of the standpoint. But I mean, man, can the dude fly in the outfield,
Yeah,
literally and figuratively? Because if you look up highlights, that dude's always Superman diving after balls.
yeah,
It just seems like every other night, especially when he was in Toronto, not so much in San Francisco, but when he was in Toronto, it seemed like every night you get on Twitter or on YouTube and there'd just be another Kevin Pillar makes amazing catch type of highlight. So I think in the short term, I think it's probably a good move for them. But serves the Red Sox right that Verdugo's not going to be ready for spring training since they've decided to trade this like the second best player in baseball.
yeah. The
I
perennial
don't feel bad.
MVP. Yeah, and that's the thing with the Red Sox. Before this whole Mookie trade, I had them potentially winning 90 some ball games, kind of coming back from
Mhm.
2019. Things change, and now things really change with Verdugo being injured, missing a couple weeks because he had Verdugo, 14 points above average for OPS plus. He only played in 102 ball games, but he really did make an effect, especially in the NL West. But they lost Mookie Betts, David Price, Rick Porcello, who we know is not the same caliber pitcher that he used to be. But Brock Holt. Now, this is something that I want you to keep in mind. Okay, um, Verdugo switched his number from 12 to 99. Now, Brock Holt was number 12, and he's still a free agent. At this point in time in spring training, if the Red Sox kind of want to just kind of float there, I think they definitely need to bring him back. But then also, here, another comment that we have. Do you think it's a definite that the Red Sox get in the playoffs with the new playoff system if it was set in stone? And the
Oh, if it
answer
was,
is
yeah,
100%
absolutely.
yes. Absolutely. Do they make it far? Probably not because they're pitching. They got Chris Sale, who, by the way, I watched the press conference today with the Red Sox. He has that mentality where he could pitch tomorrow if need be. He said he could probably be ready for opening day, but that's not his decision. The Red Sox are not going to risk it. So, yet again, those first 15 games are so crucial.
Right.
Um, Thoughts?
Uh, I think they should bring Brock Holt back, whether they do or not. Who knows at this point. I hadn't heard about the Verdugo number change thing. That's definitely pretty
Just
interesting.
happened today. Yep.
The only thing I would point to say maybe they're not going to do it is they'd signed Jose Peraza, who's is kind of polar opposites the last two seasons.
Dude,
Not a
yeah,
guy that's
what?
gonna, not a guy that's gonna not a guy that's gonna walk, not a guy that's gonna hit for power. He'll play average defense, but he can play a decent number of positions. I mean, he hit around 300 last year. I think he almost actually was like the first Reds player to hit 200 or close to 200 hits since like Barry Larkin.
Yeah.
But last season was absolutely like abysmal. Negative .9 WAR, 631 OPS, a 62 OPS plus. That's 38% below league average. So I don't know. I mean, I guess if they think that Jose Peraza can return to 2018 form, then maybe you don't go sign Brock Holt. But
Right.
I think otherwise you do. I think it makes a lot of sense. I can't believe he's still a free agent, honestly.
I can't either. He's an absolute steal. He's a jack of all trades kind of player. He can play multiple positions, but it is important to mention that the new playoff system does not take into effect, if accepted, like if they go through with it, until 2022. So for the next 2 years, we're going to see the traditional playoff system. Um, let's go ahead and look at their lineup. Let me go ahead and pull it up. For the Red Sox, their projecting lineup, we got Christian Vasquez catching, Mitch Moreland, who still produces pretty well at first base. Michael Chavis had a very good year as well. He's right now slated as a second baseman. If they bring back Brock Holt, kind of be a platoon guy with first base, and you can even DH him a couple days too. There's a lot of flexibility there with the Red Sox. You got Rafael Devers at third base, Xander Bogaerts at short, and then their outfield. It does say Verdugo on the screen. You can go ahead and fill in Pilar right there as of right now, and then JD Martinez as the DH. If you really do look at this lineup, it really isn't that bad, but with all the adversity that they're about to face too, because Manfred did mention that they're going to get whatever's coming to them. I don't think it's going to be anywhere as strong and as the Astros, but I just don't know. But the pitching's just not there for me. Pitching's just not there for me this year with the Red Sox. Your thoughts on this lineup?
I like the lineup. I should say I like the starting lineup.
Yeah.
We were talking about Verdugo's down at least for a couple weeks, and Pilar's gonna be filling in there. If anyone else gets injured, they're gonna be in trouble. Their bench guys that stick
Hey,
out
hey, hey!
are
That's where Puig could come into play, right?
yeah. Honestly, that wouldn't be a
That's
bad idea.
yeah.
But Jose Peraza, Dustin Pedroia, if he can get healthy, and Marco Hernandez are like the three guys that are like the best to come off their bench.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you plug any of those guys into the lineup right now, suddenly that creates a pretty big hole. So I don't
Yeah.
know. They're gonna have to stay healthy on that side of the field. Yeah, I don't know. The rotation just doesn't do it for me either. Chris Sale. So obviously stud at one. Nathan Eovaldi, I guess if they could get him to come back to what he was in the playoffs a couple
Oh my
years ago,
gosh! Right?
but I mean, he wasn't that last year, and so who knows what you're going to get out of him. Uh, I mean, there's just you don't really know what you're going to get out of any of these guys. I will say their bullpen, Brandon Workman, Matt
Ooh,
Barnes,
Brandon Workman
Ryan
had a
Brazier.
tremendous year last year.
Yeah, I mean, their bullpen, they're not guys that if you don't follow the sport closely, you've probably never heard of any of these guys, but they're all guys that had ERAs under around 4 last year, which out of the pen's not bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess if the rotation can get them late enough into the ball game where they can hand it over the pen, then maybe they'll be all right. But I don't know. I don't trust the rotation, and if they get any more injuries, then I think it could be bad news for the Red Sox.
No, I completely agree, and there's not a lot of depth there at starting pitching, and that's what worries me in this division with the power and contact with these guys. But Chris Sale, I definitely think he's going to have a bounce back year this year. Couldn't be much worse than last year, honestly. He actually joked about it too. He's like, in the press conference today, they talked about the Astros cheating and stuff like that, and like when he plays the Astros, and he's like, well, couldn't get worse than last year. Just kind of focus on right now and stuff like that. He's always had a good head on his shoulders. I think he's going to come back stronger than ever. Personally, he's been with the Red Sox now for 5 years. Now, probably, I will say this though. I will say this. Where was so Ron Renicky was named interim manager for the Red Sox, and I do think this is like a perfect solution to the problem right now. He was kind of already part of that system, and he knows the players. So I just kind of want to get your thoughts about this, Noah, with Ron Renicky being the interim manager for the Red Sox.
He's a guy that's been there before. He's been in the playoffs with the Brewers. I think we saw this with the Astros where after AJ Hinch was gone, they went out and they got, more of a traditional type of manager with Dusty Baker.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of the same kind of move. Obviously Alex Cora is gone now. And so I think it gives them stability in the clubhouse. It gives them a guy that's, not going to do anything crazy, a guy that has the perception around the league, at least, that he respects the game. And I think it's a good move for them from a PR standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to be a guy that sticks as the manager. I don't know. I think it's weird to me that they're going to spring training with an interim manager. I would have thought that by now they would have made an official hire. But I don't have any problem with Ron Renicky. I think he'll be a fine manager.
Yeah.
Anytime you can get handed a lineup with as much offensive skills what they've got, I don't think you can complain. And I think it'd be pretty hard to fail with that good of a lineup.
Yeah, and Ron Renicky, he actually finished second in the National League or Manager of the Year behind Kirk Gibson. Um, Back in 2011, I believe that was his first year with the Brewers when they went to the playoffs, won the division. I mean, he has a good history. I mean, his managerial record is just over 500. But like we said in this instance right now, with what they're going through and kind of a late minute thing with spring training, I think it was a good hire. I think it was a good hire. So the last thing I would say though before we move on, I'm really glad that this was probably the best move they did all of the offseason was just extending Andrew Benintendi, because this is a guy, left-handed hitter, who can hit lefties. He can spray to all parts of the field, and that's something that teams really look for is a switch hitter or trying to be flexible, keeping your righties and lefties um, available and stuff like that. But Andrew Benintendi, also a Cincinnati guy, went to Madeira High School. You gotta
Mm-hmm.
you gotta like this extension too. 3 years.
Yeah, he's a guy that plays good defense. I mean, he kind of, I'm gonna say struggled a bit, but I mean, it's just more that it was a step back from last season.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll be 25 this year. Last year the batting average dropped 24 points, OPS dropped by almost 60. If you look at his OPS plus 2018, he was at 123. 2019 he was at 100. So
Hmm.
I mean, obviously you don't like to see that much of a drop off in
No,
production,
you
but
don't.
I like the move for them. It gives them some stability in the outfield moving forward. Solid player, and even at the season he put up last year, that's not like they're getting a bad deal out of it. And I think that his ceiling is, I think he's kind of, the floor is probably what he did in 2019, and the ceiling is so much higher that this seems like a good move for them.
Yeah, it was a good move by the Red Sox, and we'll just kind of end it at that. But let's transition now to the perennial favorite in the division, and I know Noah and I can definitely agree on this: the New York Yankees. New York Yankees added the best pitcher in baseball right now, no doubt, Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole, nasty, nasty last year, a 20-5 record. So just yet alone, when the Yankees won over 100 games last year, you just added 20 more wins, presumably, theoretically and speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what's really good too is that 185 ERA plus, very good, very good for Garrett Cole. 85 points above league average. That's
Yeah,
insane,
I mean
absolutely
that's almost
insane.
two average starting pitchers in one guy.
Yeah,
That's crazy production.
that's insane. 0.895 WHIP. Yet again, WHIP is walking hits per innings pitched on average, less than one per inning. This guy is absolutely filthy, and I was kind of worried. I was wondering how it was going to be though, because he was with the Astros going to the
Mm-hmm.
Yankees. But it's Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
Like Garrett Cole probably just is in his own realm. I feel like he's just kind of focused on himself. I mean,
Yeah, I think that you kind of give the pitchers on the Astros a bit more the benefit of the doubt than you do
yeah,
the hitters,
for
because
sure.
they had nothing to gain out of the scandal. So I think the only knock on Cole would just be that he didn't say anything. But I mean, 26 strikeouts last year, easily led the league. Obviously it's a massive deal, 9 years, 324 million. But I mean, I think you're getting a good pitcher. The only concern that I have about Garrett Cole is that he's going to be pitching in Yankee
Yankee
Stadium,
Stadium. Yeah,
because
it's
it is a very hitter friendly ballpark. And the one knock on Garrett Cole has been that he gives up home runs at a pretty high rate. And so I wonder how much that's going to affect him pitching in New York. But I mean, the Astros have a decently hitter friendly stadium, especially down the left field line. So, I don't know how much of a difference it's really going to make, but, who knows? It's just kind of something you're going to have to see. But I think even if he gives up more home runs, I mean, you're getting a top 5 pitcher in baseball, like, at the worst. So
No,
I
for
think it'll be
sure.
fine.
No, for sure. And his FIP is going to go up, like you said. I mean, he's pitching at Yankee Stadium, my high school field. I'm not even kidding. It was bigger. I mean, right field or right center field at Beechwood
Mhm.
before they have turf and everything, because we used to have like it was like 420. It was like 420 to right center and 329 with a ginormous gym you had to hit it over and left field. And it was like 345 to right field. It was insane. And Yankee Stadium, it's like what 312, 319 or something like that. And it's not that big of a park at all. I think it's
Yeah,
the
it's
smallest
definitely not
ballpark.
much.
It's the smallest ballpark in Major League Baseball, I think. Um, but you look at the subtractions. They lost Edwin Encarnacion to the White Sox, Didi Gregorius to the Phillies, Dylan Betances to the Mets, Austin Romine to the Tigers, and CC Sabathia, who retired. Honestly, if you really look at their subtractions, the only one that really hurts with their situation is probably Dylan Betances, because you got Gleyber Torres, you have DJ LeMahieu, um, but you can never go wrong with that bullpen. And Dylan Betances, really, that's the only one that really kind of hurts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty star-studded subtraction list, and yet they're still the favorites, which just speaks to how much depth they had last year and
Yeah,
how good they were. And I mean, Didi, you replaced with Gleyber Torres. Edwin was just kind of DHing anyways at
yeah,
this point in his career. And I mean, you lose Dylan Betances, which I guess sucks if he's healthy and pitching at what he can be. But they still have Aroldis Chapman, Adam Ottavino, Zach Britton, Chad Green, Tommy Kahnle. Like they still have the best bullpen in the American League,
yeah.
and they lost Dylan Betances this offseason.
That's insane. That's
So
insane.
I think they'll be fine, as far as that goes.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, yeah, they're going to be just fine,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's definitely the most impactful if you look at the team as a whole.
right.
Yeah.
I think one thing too that I need to mention for the sleepers when we go back to the beginning of the podcast, Miguel Andujar. Yes, he's a star caliber player, but he tore his labrum in like what the fifth game or something like that of the season,
Hmm.
and we don't know how he's gonna bounce back. I think he's gonna do just fine. He's the perennial favorite to be that designated hitter, and he could intertwine. That's a guy who could play the corners of the infield. I guarantee him and Voit will switch in and out at DH and first base.
Hmm.
Very nice to see. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Yankees' potential projecting lineup right now. We got Gary Sanchez, who reports have said, by the way, has slimmed down and has looked absolutely jacked, and that's scary. Hopefully, he hustles everything out, because that was the only reason I never liked him. But still, an absolute stud catcher behind the
Hmm.
dish. Luke Voit. He actually switched his number, if you guys don't know. So Garrett Cole joined the Yankees. Garrett Cole's number 45. Luke Voit changed his number to 59. Um, and I forget who it was for. It might. I don't want to say, just take a guess, because I just don't know. I don't remember. But he changed it for a personal reason. DJ LeMahieu. This is a guy. I mean, I can't even believe people undervalue this guy. So this is honestly, I would think, top 5 player in all of Major League Baseball. DJ LeMahieu can just get the job done. And then breakout year last year, third base, you got Giovanni Urshela, short, Gleyber Torres, and then the outfield, you got Aaron Judge, Brett Gardner, and Mike Talkman. And then DH, you got Giancarlo Stanton. And as well, here, if you look at their bench, they got Clint Frazier, Mike Ford, and Tyler Wade. So, what are your thoughts with this projecting lineup, Noah?
I mean, it's clearly the best. I mean, I don't. I mean, I just there's no holes.
Yeah,
You corner spot, and then Miguel Andujar slides in at DH. But I mean, you got Clint Frazier, who OPS like 800 something when he was up last
I
year,
cannot
and,
believe he
and
even
that's
got
just
sent
kind of like a
down.
luxury.
Dude, that was
Uh,
insane.
Mike Talkman broke out. Mike Ford's got a chance to break out this year. Tyler Wade provides a pretty good utility piece. And then you go to the rotation, Garrett Cole, Tanaka, Luis Severino, J.A. Happ, Jordan Montgomery as a 5 is pretty good all in itself. The thing that sucks, and Jordan Montgomery's kind of filling in because James Paxton's out 3 to 4 months with back surgery, and Domingo Herman's got an 81 game suspension. So Jordan Montgomery's like their 7th pitcher on the roster. So I don't know, this team's loaded. And another name that I just realized, Aaron Hicks isn't even in this lineup because he got Tommy John surgery,
I
so he'll
know.
be missing most of the season. I mean, this team is just absolutely loaded. Like this doesn't look like a team that's missing 4 or 5 guys with injury. You know.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And we got another comment here in our live stream. MLB Network had Ketel Marte as a better second baseman than DJ LeMahieu, which they found odd, and I would definitely have to agree. Ketel Marte is a heck of a player, but DJ LeMahieu has been performing. He's probably the most consistent player if you look all across Major League Baseball. People were worried about how his offensive numbers would be moving away from Coors Field. The dude is absolutely raked since he came to New York. Yes, it's a hitter-friendly ballpark, but there's not one ball that he hits that seems like it's not hard. You know what I mean? I mean, this guy is just disgusting for the Yankees. Definitely perennial favorite, like you said, especially when Domingo Germán comes back after that 81 game suspension. It's just going to strengthen them even more. And you never know. You know, come playoff time, we know the Yankees are going to be a playoff team. You know, Jonathan Paxton, he had one of the lowest FIPS last year for the Yankees. Even though he had an elevated ERA, he didn't have the players in Seattle that he has in New York. Three to 4 months with back surgery. This is a guy who could come back in the playoffs and then just shove.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, they're loaded. You know, that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, just yeah. Yankees are going to win the division. That's our thoughts. We're going to move on now to the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays. I actually thought they had. I think they kind of got shafted a little bit in some of these trades, if you ask me. You know, you get rid of Tommy Pham, who had one of the best years of his career. A lot of people don't like him as a player. I remember watching Blake Snell's reaction when he was like live streaming. He was like, "What?" Like he was really salty. But the Rays added Hunter Renfroe, who didn't really have that great of a year. He was just 2 points above average for OPS plus. Only hit 216 for batting average. Yoshitomo Tsugo, a 2-year, $12 million deal. 272 last season, 29 home runs. He can play corner infield or outfield, but he'll probably most likely DH. And then you could also say that the same for Jose Martinez, who they got from the Cardinals. Jose Martinez is kind of an interesting guy because he played in the Frontier League. So I interned with the Florence Freedom. And the two most notable guys in that league ever or three guys, I should say, are Steve Delabar, Jose Martinez, and Tanner Roark. Tanner Roark and Jose Martinez both play for the Southern Illinois Miners, I believe. So I think that's kind of interesting. He was a player who was really hot last year towards the middle part of the season. Kind of fell off towards the end. He hit 269, 751 OPS, just extremely average, right? The biggest issue with him, though, is the defensive liability. And do you want to touch a little bit on that with Jose Martinez, potentially if he even does play the outfield?
Yeah, I don't even like. I don't know. This to me, this was a weird group of trades.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they trade one outfielder for another. With trading Tommy Pham for Hunter Renfroe. I mean, obviously they got a top prospect in Xavier Edwards back in that deal as well. But then you go and you sign Satsugo, who's another guy that's iffy defense, probably a DH type guy. Then you go and you trade for Jose Martinez, who's another most likely DH first base guy. It feels like they're just loading up at like first base and DH.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be their defense is going to be kind of lacking in the corners, but you know we haven't gotten to it yet. But they traded and got Manuel Margot, who is pretty good in the outfield defensively. And they also have defensively he's towards the top in terms of outs above average, which is another defensive metric. And then so you've got Manuel Margot and Kevin Kiermaier, who could probably platoon righty lefty. Sure, they're not going to give you a ton offensively, but defensively they're going to cover a ton of ground. So I think that is kind of how they can get away with having Jose Martinez. But man, he is just abysmal in the outfield when it comes to defense. But you know, if he's healthy offensively, he could be a dude that hits in the 300s. So I don't know. I mean, it's not a horrible trade, but it's tough when you gave up Matthew Liberatore, a top pitching prospect, to get him.
And that's the thing too, and this is a hard take, and you don't know this yet, Noah, but I actually don't have the Rays making the playoffs this year. They were probably the one team that actually gave away the most, in my opinion. They got rid of, well, they didn't really get rid of. Avisail Garcia was on a 1-year contract. He had a very good year with the Rays. He's now with the Brewers. Tommy Pham mentioned he had probably a career year, traded to the Padres. Matthew Liberatore, literally a top draft pick, absolute stud. I was looking forward to him coming up through the ranks and whatnot. Emilio Pagan, he had a disgusting year. 70 innings pitched, 2.31 ERA, uh, and he had 96 strikeouts. And for a reliever like that and 70 innings pitched, you're doing something right. Um, with just Manuel Margot, I just don't think the defense is going to just kind of help leverage the team. If you really look at that right side of the field, it seems like it's kind of a mess right now. And that's just my opinion with the Rays.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Manuel Margot is it depends. I think as a platoon bat, he's going to be really good. You look at his numbers last year against left-handers: 330
Mm-hmm.
average, 420 on base, 466 slugging. There's an 886 OPS. So if you play him in the right spots, like I think he's good. But and maybe he unlocks that potential of being. I mean, he was a former top prospect.
Yeah.
Maybe because the Rays,
Maybe just a
anytime
new
that they
scenery.
acquire someone, yeah, and I mean the Rays are kind of one of those teams where like if they call you asking for one of your players, you hang up immediately and try to figure it out what it is that they see in them
Yeah, for sure.
because they're just I don't know. It always scares me whenever the Reds come into trade talks with the Rays because I'm like, great, we're gonna lose this guy and he's suddenly gonna become a star there because their player development is just super good.
Yeah. And that is one thing they do have is player development. It's very good. One guy I'm really looking forward to that could have a breakout year as well is Brendan McKay. The thing is, like, does he even get in? Because they do have one of the strongest rotations in bullpen as well. He'll probably be in the bullpen, I would imagine. But let's go to uh, their lineup potentially. So we got Mike Zunino catching. As most of you guys know, he spent most of his time in Seattle. G-Man Choi at first base. I mean, he took over first base over Jesus Aguilar when he was traded. Jesus Aguilar really fell off last year. Brandon Lowe at second base had a very good year. Yandy Diaz at third. Willie Adames at short. Willie Adames was a huge prospect as well, and that's one thing too to be on the lookout for this year. Wander Franco, and that when he comes up, he's going to be big time. I'm waiting for it. Austin Meadows, I can't believe that was one of the worst trades I've ever seen when Pirates traded him away for Chris Archer. I still don't understand that because Austin Meadows is just give him 3 years. Give him 3 years, and we're talking maybe an MVP. Or not like he's going to win it, but he'll be in talks, if you know what I mean. He's a
Yeah,
very good
and
player.
real quickly about that trade, like they didn't
AL
just give up
MVP,
Austin
sorry.
Meadows. Don't let them get off the let them get off the hook. They also gave up Tyler Glasnow and a top prospect pitcher in Shane Baez. So like
That's ridiculous for mediocre Chris Archer, who has anger issues and cannot just whatever. Okay. And I meant AL, sorry, not NL, because I was focused on the Pirates. And I'm just, whatever. But they also have Hunter Renfroe out there and Kevin Kiermaier, also guys that can play in the outfield. We got Manuel Margot, who will get time as well. It'll be interesting to see how spring training shapes out because this will give him a time to see where maybe Manuel Margot is better in left field. Maybe he's better in center field. It's hard to imagine them moving Kiermaier, but that's the issue with me. If you have Kiermaier and Margot, you have two guys that are absolute studs defensively, but how far is that going to get you when they only hit about 230? So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And then Jose Martinez right now, so he does the DH. Any final takes on the Rays?
I don't know. I mean, I know you don't have them in the playoffs, but I think I had them winning 90 games or somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would expect Blake Snell to kind of bounce back. He had a bit of a down year last year.
Yeah.
Charlie Morton has been lights out for a few years now. Tyler Glasnow's up and coming, and he's adding a splitter to his already
Ooh.
disgusting arsenal.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh God, that's gonna be devastating.
I mean, they use the opener as well, and you look at their bullpen: Jose Alvarado, Nick Anderson, Diego Castillo, Chaz Rowe. There's just a lot, and then that doesn't even mention Brendan McKay, who's a former top prospect and two-way guy, and then another top guy that could kind of get into their bullpen maybe later in the year is Brent Honeywell. He's a former top 100 guy. Got Tommy John, and so you miss a bunch of time, but he's a guy that can come back and make an impact too. So I don't know. I think they're going to be good, but I mean, defense matters less and less these days as the
Mm-hmm.
game kind of shifts to the whole strikeout, walk, home run phenomenon. But I don't know. I think that they have a chance to be really good.
I think, I mean, there's no doubt they're gonna be able to compete and everything like that. I just, with their outfield the way it is and that right side of the infield kind of being in question, and if Glasnow can pitch a full healthy season, I just, I don't know, man, because I definitely think I'm biased. There's gonna be a team that comes out of the AL West that makes a wild card, and I actually think there's gonna be a team out of the AL Central that makes a wild card. Just
Yeah,
because I think,
that's what's tough about it, because
yeah,
like I don't think they're going to top the Yankees,
no one's gonna top the
and the
Yankees this
wild
year.
card will
Not a
be
chance.
super competitive. So
Hmm.
yeah, no, I definitely see where you're coming from as far as they might not make it.
I'd like to see them. I mean, it was didn't they took the Astros to Game 5, didn't they?
I think so.
And the game
Yeah.
was at the Astros. All right, boys, we got to win this game. Ding.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm just gonna get triggered again. Moving on. The Toronto Blue Jays is our last team in the AL East. This is a team with a bunch of um, bunch of guys that have dads that have played. Bo Bichette, Dante Bichette, Kevin Biggio, Craig Biggio, Vlad Jr., obviously, Vladimir Guerrero. It's really cool to see these guys kind of play as a team and see their dads like
Yeah.
attend. I think it is so cool. And they have such an up and coming talent. And when they have these many prospects already in Major League Baseball, they're just going to keep building on that team chemistry. I mean, that's 3 guys in the infield under the age of, 23. That's
Yeah.
disgusting. And they added Chase Anderson from a trade with a trade from the Brewers. Um, they got rid of Justin Smoke, who he had a tremendous 2017 campaign. It was a career year, but other than that, Justin Smoke only really hit for power.
Mhm.
Nothing that crazy. Tanner Roark, I actually really, really like this signing. 2 years, 24 mil. I kind of want to get your opinion. I mean, 31 games started. I think when he got traded to Oakland, we really saw what he could deliver as, you know, honestly a mediocre pitcher. But when you move into a pitcher ballpark, it becomes very valuable. What do you think about this signing?
I love it, honestly. This is a guy that I liked when the Reds went out and got him for Tanner Rainey last offseason.
Mm-hmm.
It's a guy that I really wanted them to go out and try and get for the back of the rotation this offseason. Obviously, he landed with the Blue Jays. And, I mean, the Blue Jays went out and just bought a whole new starting rotation this year.
Yeah, they did.
We haven't gotten to Shun Yamaguchi or Hyunjin Ryu yet, but, like, those are a couple of pretty good pickups, too. I like it. With them getting Ryu, I don't think that Tanner Roark has the pressure of kind of being a front half of the
Being
rotation
the guy,
starter.
yeah, yeah.
Like he's just going to be a guy that's going to slot in at 3 or 4, probably give you around maybe a little above league average stats, but you don't really need anything more than that. And Tanner Roark's a guy that's typically healthy, a guy that you can probably count on to
Mm-hmm.
give you around 5 innings every time you go out. You can't really ask for more than that.
No, you really can't. And if you can get to that 5 to 6 inning mark, you're going to be in good shape. And with these players developing, seeing, and that's what I really like about Kevin Biggio, Bo Bichette, and Vlad Jr. They're going to be seeing these pitchers, the Garrett Coles, the Chris Sales, tons of times in the year, and they're just going to get better and better by seeing them. Even if their numbers don't show
Mm-hmm.
this year, perhaps the Blue Jays are going to be the team. If it's going to be the Orioles or Blue Jays getting out of the dump, like out of the slumps, like we talked about, it's going to be the Blue Jays. They could really make some noise in the next couple of years. But they did sign Hyunjin Ryu, 4 years, $80 million. Had a career year with the Dodgers last year, 182.2 innings pitched, 2.2 or 2.32 ERA, with a 179 ERA plus. Very, very good, and a 1 WHIP. You can't ask for much, especially a lefty too. It's really unique to see that because you usually don't get that out of a left-handed pitcher
Mm-hmm.
who's been in the league for quite some time. So
Right.
yeah. Um, but let's go ahead and move to the potential lineups for the Toronto Blue Jays, and then we'll get into our predictions for or the standings for the American League East. So we got catcher Reese McGuire, which that might change due to reasons we will not say in our broadcasts. If you want to know what happened to Reese McGuire, you can go ahead and look it up. Let's just say he kind of did something stupid. But they have Danny Jansen. He was a huge prospect, played in the Futures game in 2018. And we kind of see how he progresses as well. He got Rowdy Tellez at first base. Kevin Biggio, Vlad Jr., and Bo Bichette rounding out the infield. Very good. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. had a very good year as well. He was sent down in the minors last year, came back stronger than ever. Reno Grichuk that I like a lot. One guy that I'm really not too keen on is Derek Fisher, though. He was with the Astros a couple years ago. And then Teoscar Hernandez as the DH. What do you think about this lineup, Noah?
I really like this lineup, especially if everyone kind of does what we expect them to do,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big question mark because I mean, you look at, I think Rowdy Tellez is 25 or 26. Then you look at Biggio, Guerrero, Bichette are all under 23.
Yeah.
Lourdes Gurriel's also really young. Same thing with Teoscar Hernandez. So I mean, they're young, so you don't know what you're gonna get. But if they all produce, and then you look at the rotation with Ryu and Roark and Yamaguchi, I didn't reflect it this way in my standings when I projected them, but this is a team that could kind of come out of nowhere and really, if things fall their way, like if the Red Sox are worse than what we expect them to be this year, which is a possibility, then and if the Rays aren't as good as what I think that they could be this year, then they could be a team that we get to the mid August and they're still kind of hanging around for a second wild card spot.
I mean, potentially, just you never know. One thing. So we have another comment. It's about Kevin Biggio, and MLB has him as a top 10 second baseman. And what do you think about that? No, because for me personally, I don't see it. Not yet, at least. He hit 234 last year in 100 games. The OPS was almost there. I mean, 793. A little bit above average, but I just don't think it's a good sample size yet to put him as top 10 in the MLB. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he didn't hit for average,
No.
but the dude gets on base. You look at his batting average was 234 last season. His on base percentage was 364.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
pretty
that's
impressive.
100. That's 13%. Just in walks.
Yeah.
Uh, he slugged 429, which isn't necessarily great, but when you look at the difference between the batting average and the slugging percentage, that makes it look a little better. Pretty solid defense. Second base is just kind of one of those positions where there's just not, like I don't know. It's not like your shortstop where you're looking at all kinds of star-studded talent at the top. I
Yeah.
don't hate it. I think that part of it is they're doing a bit of projecting to think that he's going to hit a little better this year, which I think is fair to do. I would agree with
I
that.
do too.
But I mean, I think he's at the very worst, he's in that area of like I think he's definitely top 15.
I'd say
I could
top
see where
15. I'd say
I'd
top
see where you make
15.
the argument for top 10.
I
Like at 10.
it,
But
he is really good defensively too. Let's keep that in mind. Very quick, agile. He's 23 or no, he's 24. Excuse me. Um, but the hitting, I just don't think it's a good enough sample size. Like you said, he gets on base and everything. He did hit for a little bit of power, but I think this year will really help us, kind of solidify
mm,
where he is in those rankings. But the bench too, they have Travis Shaw, good power off the bench, can't go wrong there. Did they get Joe Panic on a minor league deal?
they did.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a good steal too.
Yeah. Okay. One final question I have for you, and this is more of just kind of a projection thing.
Okay.
Do you think that Ken Giles is a Blue Jay after the trade deadline?
Ooh, I think it depends. I just think it depends where they stand
Yeah,
and
I
what
mean, I
they
guess
could give
that's
up.
part of my question to you as well is do you think they're going to be good enough to where they think, yeah, we should hold on to Ken Giles? Or do you think that they're going to be bad enough that they say, you know what, let's try and deal this guy and get something for him?
With the way the Yankees are, I think it's going to depend not just on the Yankees. I think you're going to have to look at the AL Central and the AL West.
Mm.
There's going to be a team out of the AL West that makes a wild card. That's just my prediction. I don't care if it's the Athletics or Angels. I think there's going to be a team out of there that does. Um, honestly, I don't. Because you could get some prospect out of that, and with the way how young they are, it might not be a bad idea. But also, if you keep him, really kind of helps out your bullpen too in a
Yeah,
way. So, but I'm gonna say no. I think he's gonna be on a different team, and I think it stays in the division. I think he gets
that's an
traded to the
interesting
Yankees.
prediction.
I think he gets traded to the Yankees, depending
I
upon.
hope not, man. They already have, they've got too many good
Just think
relievers.
about
They
it.
don't need
Most
them.
most trades they do happen in division. I feel like, and that's just what kind of gets me. That's just, I don't know.
All
That's
right, do
just
you have
me.
any more comments or do you want to move on to projected standings?
Yeah, let's go to projected standings, but those are our team outlooks for right now. Um, so right here we got Noah's first, and I will say that you and I actually have the exact same standings, which is interesting, just different records. So Noah right here has his 2020 AL East projections as the Yankees winning 100 games, Tampa Bay winning 90, and then Boston and Toronto. This is where it's kind of dicey for me as well. We had the same record actually for Boston, 84-78, and then Baltimore just at the bottom, losing over 100 ball games. Talk a little bit about your reasonings behind your projections.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Yankees are far and away the best team in this division, without a doubt. 100 games, I picked that because I mean, that gives them the title of being a 100-game winner. But I realistically could see a scenario where they won even more than that. Um, the Rays. I think Blake Snell's gonna come back. I think their rotation and bullpen's tough. I think they're gonna get enough offensive production out of guys like Jose Martinez and the rest of the guys that they acquired that I don't know. It just feels like they always somehow end up around 90 wins, and so that's kind of where I put them. The Red Sox I have at 85. If everybody stays healthy,
I mean, 84.
or yeah,
Yeah,
excuse me,
you're
84.
good.
Then I think that I think if everyone stays healthy, they're probably there. But if they run into an injury problem, then I don't know. You could almost switch where the Blue Jays and Red Sox are.
Yeah,
I went conservative at 80 wins with the Blue Jays. I could see where they top that, but again, you're kind of banking on all of those young guys putting it together, and then the Orioles are just they're the Orioles. I mean, you could probably pick any arbitrary number that's just not good, and that's probably what they're going to be. I wanted to make sure I had them losing at least 100 games
right.
because I feel that they're going to be there. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, they're definitely the worst.
Yeah. So that was Noah's projections. Let's look at mine real quick. And King Kong, I have to agree with you. I actually have the Yankees winning 102 games. Last year there were a couple teams. Dodgers won, I think, 103 or something like that. Astros won over 100. I think this is the first time in Major League Baseball where 3 or 4 teams or something like that won over 100 baseball games. That's insane when you spread across MLB with hitting statistics and metrics and whatnot. But I have the Yankees up top. Their offense is just overpowering, and with Miguel Andujar coming back, that just adds even more flavor to the rotation because that's a guy who can dabble in each corner of the infield and whatnot. Who won AL Manager of the Year last year? By the way,
I have no idea.
it should have been Aaron.
Probably.
It had to be Aaron
Probably
Boone.
Aaron Boone.
It had to be if you ask, because I don't know why I don't know that off the top of my head, but the way they face adversity and were still able to win 100 games with guys that you've never even heard of. It's really impressive. And now this year, if they can stay healthy, they're already humbled. That's the first thing. You are a humbled team at 100 wins. Who else can say that? No one. I have Tampa Bay only winning 87 games, but they are going to be right there for that second wild card spot. The Red Sox winning 84 games, 84-78. We both have that same number, finishing third. And then the Blue Jays, I have them at 77 and 85. And kind of like what you said, it depends on injuries. You could kind of flip-flop Toronto and Boston. I just think the Red Sox have too many distractions this year. And also depending upon those first 15 games, right? If Verdugo's healthy, that's great. If he's not, okay. And same with Sale. And it was actually, okay, it was the Twins manager that won.
That's probably fair.
Yeah, that was fair. Even though it was a weak division, still, that was pretty impressive for them to get those many wins. And then I have Baltimore 61 and 101. Kind of the same thing. Arbitrary, just as long as they lose 100 games, make it look kind of nice. I did put this in a tweet, though. They could potentially have one of the worst seasons in MLB history. I think it was back when it was the Washington Senators back in the 20s or something like that. I can't think off the top of my head, but they had a winning percentage of like 14%. Like, it was really bad. It was like 143. I mean, it was so bad. And granted, they didn't play as many ball games back then, but you never know. I mean, Baltimore could. I hope, for goodness sakes, they win 60 ball games at least. But yet again, they could fall off and literally just win 45, 50. It wouldn't shock me. You just never know. So, but those are my standings. Do you agree, disagree with me with anything? And by the way, I only have, this is something you need to mention too, I only have the Yankees coming out of this division in the playoffs as the division winner.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give one of my wild card spots for the Rays. Okay. I think the other one for me comes out of the AL West, and then the Yankees coming out as division winners.
Okay, cool. Well, let's move on to our final segment. Thank you all for. This has been a long podcast. We really thank you guys. This is a lot of it too is about those Astros, and
yeah, as you say, there's a lot to cover.
There's a lot to cover this week.
You want to blame me? You want to blame the Astros?
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely blame the Astros. So we're gonna do our segment for those who are new to the segment. This is called Start One, Cut One, Bench One. So we're going around the diamond of the infield, and we give each other three players, and we have to choose to start one, to cut one, and bench one, and we have to give our reasonings. So last week we did catching and third baseman. This week we're doing shortstop and second base. So Noah, I have for you second baseman. Here are your three. Number one, you have Adam Frazier from the Pirates, who played as the full-time second baseman last year
Mm-hmm.
for the
Yep.
Pirates. Cesar Hernandez is with the Phillies, who is now with the Indians. And then third, I had to do it for you, Mike Moustakas. So
Okay, I honestly I thought this was gonna be a joke, and you were gonna say Scooter Jeanette.
you know what?
But
I was actually thinking about it. I'm still surprised he hasn't signed on a minor league deal yet. I'm just never gonna let that go. But no, Mike Moustakas. So you got Adam Frazier from the Pirates, Cesar Hernandez from the Indians, and Mike Moustakas from the Reds. So start one, cut one, bench one. What do you do?
I start Mike Moustakas. Frankly, I don't think it's that close. Uh, I think Moustakas is as close as a star caliber player. He's a guy that's probably going to give you 30 home runs. He's not going to hurt you defensively. He's been around, World Series pedigree, and I just think he's the best player. Frankly, I don't think it's really that close. I think he's also the only guy that's been ranked in the top 10 second baseman of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm going to bench Adam Frazier. He's a guy that's had some potential, a guy that could, continue to get better. Hits for a pretty decent average. And he's a guy that provides a lot of positional versatility. He's a guy that
Yeah.
can play second, third, the corner outfield spots. And then I guess that leaves Cesar Hernandez to cut. Not a guy that walks a whole lot, which is something I'm not really a fan of. Not really the positional versatility that a guy like Adam Frazier has. Doesn't really hit for a whole lot of power either. And, for those reasons, I just think that he's the worst out of that group.
Well, savage response there by Noah Gayhart yourself. I actually agree with you 100%. So with Mike Moustakas, his power is just off the charts. I think he's going to hit easily 30-plus home runs with the Reds this year. 81 home games in probably the second or third friendliest hitter-friendly ballpark across Major League Baseball. I bench Adam Frazier, like you said, very versatile. Played in the outfield. Last year was his first year where he really shined at second base and where the Pirates really needed him. And that's the guy you love to get. 29 years old. Very versatile. Come off the bench, play whatever. You hit 270-ish. Can't go wrong with that. That's above league average. Cesar Hernandez, like you said, right there with you. I do think, though, this year, I think Cesar Hernandez does have a better year than Adam Frazier. I don't know why, but I just do. And that's just my reasonings. So, Mike Moustakas, we both agree, start. We cut Adam Frazier. Or no, sorry, we bench Adam Frazier, and then we cut Cesar Hernandez.
Yep. All right. So for you, I had shortstops.
Okay.
I kind of went with the same approach as I did last week, and I'm giving you some guys actually, I didn't. I'm going top of the list this week. Last week, I kind of went second tier guys.
Okay.
So for you this week, I have Corey Seager, Javier Baez, and Trevor Story.
Ooh. Oh, man, you made this hard. Oh. Wow, dude, this is hard. Why'd you do this to me? Okay. Okay, I got it. I'm starting Javi Baez. Dude is nasty, okay? Probably one of the most versatile shortstops in the game. Came up in the league as a second baseman. Moved right on over. Addison Russell, see you later. Hate you. Get out of my face. No, Javi Baez is nasty, man. You want to talk about some team chemistry? That's a guy. Guy also hits for power. With his size, man, for him to hit with so much power and make plays on the backhand deep in the hole, it's insane. Like, how do you not start Javi Baez? I would bench Trevor Story. Yes, we know that he hits in a hitter-friendly ballpark. This guy is a freak of power, an absolute freak of power. If you need a bat in the bottom of the seventh, you need a double switch, or bottom of the ninth inning, you got to run on second base, and you're down 2. You're gonna want him at the plate. This guy hits every ball hard. And as much as it kills me, because Corey Seager, you could pretty much say the same about the same versatility and power, and he sprays the ball to all parts of the field. The only reason I cut him, now listen to me, Noah Gayhart, the only reason I cut Corey Seager, because I love this man very much, is because of the injury problems. Because you never know if he'll get injured again, and that would be real detrimental. Actually, it wouldn't be detrimental to the Dodgers because they'll just fill him right in because that team's disgusting. But I'm just speaking just about shortstops. So I start Baez, I bench Story, and I cut Seager. What about you?
I disagree, kind
Okay.
of. I
Okay.
have Javier Baez as my starter.
Okay, at least we
4.8.
got that. Thank you. At
Yeah,
least we have
4.8
that.
BWAR. You know, he's a free swinger, not a guy that's going to get on base outside of hitting the ball. 281 average, 316 OBP. Not really a whole lot of separation between those two numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Had the same OPS plus as Corey Seager last year at 113. And, what edged it out for me is that Baez is a better defender.
Yeah.
Baez,
Yeah, that's
looking
true.
at the new metric that came out, outs above average, Baez was ranked number one. Now, I will say the stimulation with that is that it's kind of a cumulative stat in a way. And so I would say Andrelton Simmons is the better defender. I know he's not in this list, but just to put that out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, he came in one. And like, you don't do that unless you're a top tier defender. For me, I benched Corey Seager, 272 average, 335 OBP, 483 slugging, 113 OPS plus again, 42 or 44 doubles last year, which led the National League. Played in around 140 games. I know he had the injury problem the year before, but frankly, I just don't trust Trevor Story's numbers. That's what it comes down to. That's why I cut him. He has some of the worst splits as far as cores and away from cores.
Oh, I
So last
believe it.
year
I
as a
mean, I can
whole,
see that. Yeah.
yeah. So last year as a whole, 6.4 WAR, which obviously sticks out immediately. 294 average, 363 OBP, and a 554 slugging. Now, if you divide those numbers between home and away, at home he hit 328 with a 402 OBP and a 662 slugging percentage.
That's
If you look
insane.
at his away stats, 260 average, 322 OBP, 445 slugging percentage. So you're looking at, a 60-point drop off in average, an 80-point drop off in OBP, and a 210-point drop off in slugging percentage away from Coors Field.
That's insane.
That just concerns me too much. I just the fact that there's that big of a split makes it hard to trust his numbers, and so for that reason, I cut him.
I mean, he still does have a lot of power, and the only thing that really doesn't matter with what you said is on base percentage because he's getting hits. Actually, no, that's not true. Never mind. But he's walking more too, and that's something to keep in mind. But it is inflated. You're playing a mile above sea level. The ball's flat at that ballpark, and that's some things that people don't understand. Is like, well, the fences are really far back. It's 350 to left field, 350 to right field. 430 to center. Yeah, but the ball also flies still like just
Right.
it's astronomical how differently the balls fly out there. But I mean, he's still a guy who hits a lot for power, though. I mean, I see where you're coming from with the inflation of the numbers, especially in OPS. But I mean, I guess that's just where we see differently. But that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, away from Coors, he had worse slugging percentages than Seager and Baez had last year. So I mean, if you want to talk about hitting for power, those guys outslugged him outside of Coors. But at the end of the day, all three of these guys are top five shortstops, and so you can mix and match them however you want to. Because I mean,
Yeah,
next year, who knows? I mean, I'm sure they're all
it'd be
going to be great
different.
players again. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah. But yeah. Any closing remarks before we end the live stream?
I think that covers it. It's been 2 hours. You should probably let these people go do something else.
I know. Appreciate all of y'all for tuning in. If you want to listen to this podcast again, if you want to, it will be on all platforms: Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it, it's going to be there. We'll also have it on our website. Please visit our website, www.chalktalknation.com. Follow Noah Gayhart. Follow me. It's on the screen as you see. Follow us on Twitter, our main account, at Chalk Talk Nation. We talk all things baseball, what's going on. A lot this week was about the Astros. Some closing remarks that I will say, though. Rob Manfred held a press conference today, and I was very upset that it wasn't broadcasted on MLB Network because they played Bull Durham for the 1,000th time. It's a great movie, but that's something I really wanted to see. I really think that there needs to be more punishment. As a franchise, yes, they punish, but they really need to dive down to who really facilitated everything. And I think they need to look more closely at that buzzer situation, because that is a really big issue. Because we're talking um, Yankees push it to Game 6 and potentially Game 7. You just never know with that kind of lineup that they had. Because like Bellinger said, if you hit a fastball off of Aroldis Chapman, one of the best closers in the game, it wasn't a fastball, sorry, but if you hit a home run off of Chapman, one of the best closers in the game, at home, to win the pennant, your first reaction is to go into the dugout to change your shirt. There's just something wrong with that. Because like Bellinger said, like Gary Sanchez said, you can rip my shirt off, you can rip my pants off, I'm going nuts. I mean, that's just, I couldn't even imagine a feeling. I'd be numb. I would want to interview, I'd want to get that Gatorade dumped on me and stuff like that. But those are my closing remarks. Anything else from you?
I mean, I definitely think they're wearing buzzers. I think at this point, I feel like if they weren't wearing buzzers, just say you're not wearing buzzers, and then we can move on. It's always just, and I know it's going to trigger you me saying it, but they just say, well, the commission report didn't find anything.
I know.
And so, I mean, I think if you weren't wearing them, just say you weren't wearing them. Just put it to bed.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Come back, please, next Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to break down the NL Central. So following that, we'll do the AL Central, then the NL West, AL West, and then we're going to have a fun podcast the week right before opening day. You can smell it in the air. It's great. So be sure to follow us, and we hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you all.